This boy was shunned by the entire village around him. Even his own siblings treated him poorly. Even his parents saw him as a cursed child. And all of this happened because Estio had a special ability to read the thoughts of humans and animals. Estio just wanted to live a peaceful life. But just because the most beautiful girl in the village showed kindness to him, Estio was falsely accused of theft by a village boy who secretly liked her. Who would believe him? In the end, he was desperate and left the village bringing only pain to himself. On the road, Estio hitched a ride with a caravan and got to know the escort captain, Lena. While the caravan was moving, the horses suddenly stopped for no clear reason. No matter how much the coachman whipped them, they stood still and refused to move. I heard Estio can read the thoughts of animals. Lena asked her younger brother to handle this for him. Help me hit him hard, Diba. I still have many things I haven't told you about. Using his ability, Estio discovered that the horses were scared. They sensed an extremely dangerous creature ahead. If the caravan dared to enter its territory, everyone would die. After that, Estio immediately told Lena about it. Lena also recalled a huge creature that could only be found in the snowy mountains. It was the white-furred ape. To continue the journey, Lena assembled a monster hunting team. Even Estio was dragged along in case a translator was needed. According to the horses, the creature they sensed was much more terrifying than the white-furred ape. The group entered the sunlight forest, which eventually darkened. Darkness enveloped everything. A team member used magic to light a fire for the path. A sudden gust of wind blew, making Estio extremely alert. In the darkness, he faintly heard the monster's thoughts. Foolish humanity. I will devour all of you. To understand a creature's emotions without touching it, that creature must have a strong enough will. The farther Estio could sense its aura, the more dangerous it was. So Estio immediately warned everyone, we have to turn back. But Lena disagreed because this was the only passable route and the caravan had to get through. Lena asked, are there any other monsters besides this one? Estio said, only one, but it's extremely dangerous. At that moment, everyone suddenly stopped and simultaneously drew their weapons, though no one knew when. In front of them appeared a giant monster. This was the first time the group had seen such a large, white-furred ape. Facing the monster, everyone remained calm and organized their battle formation. Lena the fighter went straight to the front line to engage the monster with some basic attacks. The mid and AD stood behind, continuously spamming support skills for him. While distracted, the monster was shot by the archer with an arrow in the palm. It roared angrily, shaking the entire forest. The archer was frightened by the roar, causing his limbs to go weak and his face to pale. Taking advantage of this, the monster slapped him away. Just as its sharp claws were about to end the archer's life, Estio suddenly ran forward and stood in front of him, telling the monster, stop. Unexpectedly, after hearing Estio's words, it calmed down and was no longer aggressive. Seeing this, Lena took the opportunity while the monster was still and quickly slipped behind it. I told you to watch your distance. After saying that, Lena swung her sword hard into the monster's back, making it scream in pain. Riding the momentum, the other teammates also attacked it with all their firepower. Eventually, the wounded monster had to flee into the forest. It's running away, hurry and chase it. We have to finish it off. While everyone was hunting the monster, only Estio hadn't calmed down after what just happened. At that moment, the beast understood his meaning. Even if only for a brief moment, the beast stopped. He felt this monster wasn't as cruel as the rumor said. What if everyone has been wrong about it? Then Estio heard the monster's inner voice. Mom, I'm scared. Mom, I'm so scared. Just as Estio suspected. He had to stop everyone and save the monster before it was too late. Following the footprints it left on the snow, Estio found an ice cave. The area around was quite quiet, so the warrior group probably hadn't found this cave yet. He breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he arrived just in time. Estio slowly moved deeper into the cave. The further in he went, the darker it became. While walking, he instinctively covered his nose because a strong smell of blood suddenly came from ahead. After continuing deeper inside for a while, Estio finally saw the white back of the monster sitting alone in the cave. He didn't understand why this silhouette gave him such a lonely, desolate feeling. Then he saw the memories of the white-furred monkey. On a cold evening, snow blanketed the forest. A family of white-furred monkeys was out searching for food. The alpha monkey suddenly stopped. It seemed to have caught a scent of something. On the cold snow surface lay a girl who had fainted from hunger. The monkey family didn't harm her, but brought her back to their cave to keep her warm. At first, when she woke up, the girl was very scared because of the fierce creatures she had heard about. But after some time with them, she discovered they were actually very gentle. They even shared a lot of scarce food with her during winter. Gradually, the girl grew close to the monkey family, and they also accepted her as one of their own. Because our little one is as beautiful as white snow, her name will be Nazura. However, this happy life didn't last long. One day, a group of hunters with guns found the location of the cave. The girl was killed by them while trying to protect the monkeys. Baby Nezu hid behind a rock and witnessed everything. Since then, it has hated humans. Nezu is the monkey currently in front of Estio. Because of humans, its happy family no longer exists. Seeing Estio, Nezu unconsciously called out Mom. He replied to it that he was not its mother. Nezu, curious, asked, "Then who are you?" "My name is Estio." At this moment, Nezu looked gentle and innocent like a child. "Did you come here to capture me, Estio? If not, then why have you come?" "I don't know either. I just felt I needed to come here. Humans killed my family. They are all human but cruelly attacked my mother and my own kind. I don't understand why. I think it's probably because of money." "What is money, Estio? It's a human concept. They can use money to do anything if this thing called money actually exists. Can I ever see my mother and family again?" "No, that's impossible." "Then can I take revenge?" "That's possible. Money can be used for revenge. Why can't I bring my family back to life?" Then Nezu suddenly cried loudly as if releasing all the long-held bitterness inside. "I was really angry. I thought about slaughtering them all, but when Estio appeared, I felt there was nothing left to worry about. If revenge is something I can buy with human money, then I don't think I need it. Otherwise, how am I any different from that money? That's enough. I want to rest now. Goodbye, Estio." Then he left the cave. As he stepped out, a bag suddenly fell on him. The one who threw the bag to Estio was a black ferret named Suki, whom he had helped before. "I'm glad you're okay, Suki. I'm not weak enough to be hurt by some brat." "Want me to carry you? No way, black cats sure have a sharp tongue, guys." "Where are you going?" "Suki, are you getting on the bike or what?" "What about Nezu?" "Leave him be, why? But he's injured. If someone else finds him, he'll die. Even if you'll freeze to death, if you stay here longer, I think I should go back to the cave." "Up to you. You're really smart, yet you could abandon yourself like that." "What do you mean, Suki? You think everyone will abandon you anyway, so you don't expect anything from anyone." Estio didn't respond to the cat. He silently carried the bag back into the cave. Opening the bag, inside was a jacket to keep warm. After putting on the jacket, he laid his head on Nezu's soft fur and fell asleep without noticing. At that moment, the cat slowly stepped over to Estio. It hadn't left at all. It had been secretly following him all along. "I clearly said we should go back to the car, that we shouldn't abandon children. If you get sick, it's your own fault," Estio said, and the area around the cat began to glow. In the blink of an eye, Suki transformed into a large black tiger with eyes half yellow and half green. It slowly lay down beside Estio, silently protecting him like that. Seeing Estio sleeping peacefully next to Nezu made Suki recall her past. In a dark underground research lab with no light, Suki was treated as a test subject by humans. When the experiment failed, they wanted to eliminate her. Then Suki destroyed the lab and escaped with wounds all over her body. Suki thought her life would end right there. In the darkness, a small, desperate cat lay barely breathing on the cold snow, waiting for death to come. But instead of death, she was found by warm arms. It was a boy with kind eyes who embraced Suki in his arms. Those were the purest eyes she had ever seen in her life. That boy was the one who gave a name to a failed experiment, abandoned like her Suki. The next morning, sunlight shone into the cave and Estio woke up. He thanked Suki for giving him the warm jacket. Otherwise, he would have caught a cold last night. Suki asked if Estio was hurt anywhere, and he said no. Then Suki transformed back into her black cat form. Nezu saw the new friend and ran out to greet her. Strange, yesterday she was so big, but now she's only about Estio's height. Suki asked how long he planned to keep this monkey. "It should be safe now. The wound on the back has healed, and there's been no sign of movement around here for a long time, so it seems no group is chasing us anymore. It's time to say goodbye. Take care, Nezu." At that moment, Nezu suddenly called Estio's name. Not just in his mind, but the sound actually came from her mouth, startling Suki. "How the heck does this monkey know how to speak human language? It's unreal," Nezu continued. "Let's go together. Nezu wants to go too," Estio unsure asked. "Do you really want to come with me?" Nezu didn't answer but reached out to pat his head. "I don't mind, but it will definitely be dangerous. I don't have the strength to protect you anymore." "It's okay. Nezu will protect Estio. Nezu is very strong. There's no one else left now. Nezu doesn't want to be alone anymore. I'm heading toward the city where there are many humans. But don't you get angry and scared whenever you see them. I think I'd be angry if I saw those who killed my family. But I don't care about the other humans." Estio warned, "There might be someone who wants to capture you, But Nezu was cheerful. In that case, I can get angry, right? In the end, Estio couldn't bear to leave Nezu alone and decided to take her along. That afternoon, Estio arrived at Galaxia Town before sunset. On the way, Nezu behaved well, so outsiders thought she was just his pet. But since this pet is quite big, Estio was called back by two guys in blue uniforms. "Kid, don't you know, medium-sized animals in this town must be leashed. Isn't that a white-furred monkey? Isn't it a monster? You could get into trouble." Apparently, the kid was from the countryside and didn't know the rules. Then they gave Estio an animal collar and told him to put it on Nezu's neck. If you're seen not using a leash again, it'll become illegal, remember that. Nezu is very understanding. Knowing Estio was uncomfortable, he took the initiative to tell him, "Go ahead, it's fine. Looking at him like that, you just can't refuse." He wanted to say something else, but Nezu stopped him. "It's okay. If I decide to break it, no one can stop me anyway." There was no other way. Estio had to put a collar on Nezu. Once you enter the human territory, you have to adapt to their customs to avoid drawing attention. Because you're new to the city, that's why we have to handle it this way. It seems your monkey is very smart. Take good care of him, Estio. Nezu looked at him with a sad gaze. "Sorry for letting you be treated like this, Estio, just like a mother would." Mom says that to Nezu every day. She says she's very sorry. I was curious at first, so I asked why she kept apologizing. But every time I asked, she just stayed silent without answering. However, after hearing it so many times, I finally understood. Mom's apology really means she loves me very much. That day, the snow was very cold, but it couldn't erase the warmth Nezu felt whenever he thought of his mother. The next day, Estio went all around town looking for work to cover living expenses. However, no place was willing to hire him. The first reason was because he was too young and physically weak. The second reason was that although Nezu was very gentle in everyone's eyes, he was still a white-furred monkey. If you're looking for a job, maybe going to the guild would be better. They can offer some jobs suitable for you. They also accept and complete various requests. You'll definitely find a job you can do. Just go to the building in the town center. I think the guild's name is Ignis. And according to the address I found, the Ignis Guild guarantees customer satisfaction. Welcome to Ignis, the greatest guild, and with a 99.9% mission completion rate. Hello, Estio. Just as you opened the door and stepped inside, the staff came out to greet you. Welcome to our Ignis Trade Guild. For commission requests, please go to the right door and take a waiting ticket. I heard you're recruiting new members, is that right? Sir, please go up the left stairs and fill out the application form. If you can't read that, don't worry, I've learned to read and write already. Then Estio bowed to the receptionist and led Nezu upstairs. Estio's curious looks around caught the attention of a man. So this kid wants to come to the guild to get a job. This kid is just a typical country bumpkin, just arrived here. And he even brought a pet. I came because I heard you're recruiting new members. That's right. Do you know what kind of jobs the guild usually does? I heard you accept commissions and handle them. That's not wrong. My name is Hack Branch Manager of the Galaxy Branch of the Ignis Guild. Then the manager invited Estio to sit down to discuss matters. Usually I decide whether to interview you after reviewing your profile. But recently commissions have been pouring in and manpower is limited. At this point, I'm not afraid to offer payment to ask for help. May I ask where you're from? Is it a river area? That whole river is your hometown. Which river are you talking about? It's the Serbia River. What's your specialty? Animal taming. Why, like that kind of thing. It's best not to use those words to describe it. I need to know exactly what you're good at to assign a suitable job. My specialty is being able to read the hearts of animals. There are many abilities in this world. They create magic by using mana or linking with elemental spirits. Some discover and utilize special laws. Others can heal wounds. There are only a small number of abilities in the world, and most of them are classified. But the strange ability he just mentioned doesn't fit any of those categories. Not a human, but an animal. That's kind of weird. Forgive me, if I had known you were an ability user, I wouldn't have bothered with this kind of interview. Right now, he's like a hidden card. Depending on the number, it could be a full house or just end with a pair. Just place your bet and see. House number 3 is looking for animal traders on Corpse Road. He's a collector affiliated with a guild, but it seems lately he's bought some rare breeds and is having trouble maintaining them. If you really have that ability, you might be able to solve his problem. If this deal goes well, you might even get a sugel from the merchant. Sigil serves as proof of your success. So take it and come back here. House number 3 on the railway over there, Estio. Thanks, Nezu. After Nezu gave directions, Estio went to the address written on the paper. This house has 2 fierce dogs chained up at the front door. But facing Estio's pet behind him, they had to show respect. The 2 dogs immediately lay down in front of him, trembling nonstop. Nezu still wore an innocent, guiltless expression. I didn't do anything. You don't need to be afraid. I won't attack you, so don't worry. I'm here to meet the owner of this place. Saying that, Estio petted the dogs' heads, calming them down. Suddenly, someone behind asked if he was from the guild. When Estio turned around, he saw a bald older man. Yes, sir, I'm the person sent here by the Ignis Guild. I brought the dogs here because they're fighting dogs that don't obey anyone. If they're quiet, it means either they're crazy or you really have that strange ability. Follow me, kid. Then the man led Estio to his workplace. The two stopped in front of a cage holding some creature. Look, do you know why this brat keeps struggling like that? It's a rare breed that's very expensive and hard to find. When it first arrived, it was fine, but this damn kid won't even eat even when I bring food. That's frustrating. Estio silently read the man's thoughts. Though he seemed angry, he really just wanted to say to it, please don't be sick anymore, little one. This shows the man truly cares for and loves animals. Estio began to sit down. He carefully assessed the creature inside the cage. It's still just a baby. What are you talking about? If you don't train it properly from when it's young, it will attack people when it grows up. What if the nobles complain about trading dangerous beasts? What excuse would I even use, you little brat? This kid really isn't normal at all. The man said it's in pain, but exactly where? Estio began using his ability communicating with the small creature. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his heart like someone was squeezing it, and he fell backward. Seeing this, the man worriedly asked if he was okay. Could it be the kid is in pain too? No, it's not me. It's the pain of this Drakey. What did you say? Why is that? All right, now Estio focused on observing the memories of this Drakey. Kid, you're frozen stiff, damn it. Why'd you stop talking halfway? That baby's heart is melting right now. The man didn't understand. What does that mean? What nonsense are you talking about? Estio explained this species usually lives in extremely cold water. If covered with dry soil or sawdust, it can't breathe and will dry up and die. But the uncle thought Drakey was a desert-dwelling monster, and Estio was just talking nonsense. I said its heart made of ice is melting. You crazy kid. What kind of animal needs an icy heart to live? That said, when he saw his pet writhing in pain, he was extremely worried. Whether Estio was right or wrong, he had to give it a try. Winter will come soon. I'll create an environment like the desert where you used to live. The uncle sighed silently, scolding the naughty kid, then tossed a shovel into Estio's hand. What are you standing there for? Go outside and bring some snow in quickly. Me alone? You want an old man like me to do it? I'm too weak now, so you, a strong young man, go shovel some snow in here. If you're too slow, both you and that troublesome Drakey will be gone for good. Saying that, the uncle took Drakey out of the cage and put him into the water tank. Sure enough, after contact with the cold water, he seemed much more comfortable. Seeing that, the uncle was relieved. So that kid really wasn't lying to me. What are you standing there staring at? Get moving or I'll beat you up. The uncle has a kind heart, but is a bit gruff. Then Estio took the shovel and went outside to shovel snow. Once he got the snow, the uncle told him to put it into the water tank. Look at you. Get more snow instead of just standing there. Still need more. Stop talking and just keep shoveling until I say stop. Hurry up. After a while, when the water tank was filled with snow, Drakey no longer felt pain. He was able to stand up and move normally again. Drakey is already an extremely rare species. Among them, there are even some ice element variants, so they aren't widely known. Seeing Drakey happy again, Estio breathed a sigh of relief. It was worth shoveling snow all night. This kid is already starting to relax, huh? You think now is the time to rest? Follow me. It turns out the uncle wanted Estio to check on the other animals. This horse has a thorn stuck in its hoof, and these are predators with high territorial competition, so it's best to separate them. The uncle was very impressed with Estio's abilities. It turns out this kid really can understand animals. After a hard night, it's time for your reward. Don't lose it, kid. Estio watched the uncle walk away and couldn't help but sweat nervously. So you read his mind. You're leaving. You have to go. Don't go. Please stay. The uncle is clever. Stay and be his mule. At that moment, a cold wind blew, making Estio shiver uncontrollably. Suddenly, he slumped by the roadside, causing Nezu great concern. Are you okay, Estio? Do you have a cold? Suki quickly arrived to check on his condition. What's wrong? You don't seem injured. Get up. Sitting outside in the cold too long will make you sick. Estio gently reached out and rubbed Suki's head. Thank you, Masuki. Thank me for what? For not avoiding a cursed guy like me. You don't like being touched by me, do you? Exactly. I hate being touched by humans, but when I rubbed your head just now, why didn't you pull away? You really still don't get it, do you, Estio? I'm saying you're different from those humans. Do what you want, I won't avoid you. I'm leaving now. Then Estio returned to the Ignis Guild. The manager was surprised. That strict guy not only paid the guild 1 but 2 gold coins. It seems the kid's ability to understand animal thoughts is real. Welcome, Estio. From now on, you're a member of the guild. I'll give you the uniform and guild identification badge. Remember to wear it when you go on missions. Wait a moment while I get the clothes. Later, the manager returned with a brand new outfit from the 3rd floor of the building. All of these are residences for guild members. The facilities aren't exactly great, but if you have nowhere else to go, just come take a look. Pets are allowed too, so don't worry. Tomorrow morning, go down to the employment support department. Now you can go rest. After completing the mission, Stio was assigned a room at the guild by the manager, wearing the new guild uniform. You've become a stylish and handsome young man. Even Nezu had to praise Estio for looking so handsome in this outfit. Lying on a soft, warm bed, the feeling was so comfortable that you couldn't help but reminisce about your past life. But compared to before, you already feel very happy. Nezu, are you asleep? Do you regret it at noon? Regret following me. Wearing a freedom chain restricts you, and you get stared at by everyone. Not to mention the path ahead will be even more difficult. Stio thinks Nezu must regret it a lot. Tomorrow you will set him free back to the mountains. But Nezu's words made you feel very warm inside. I don't regret it. I'm very glad I followed Stio and relieved that I'm no longer alone. Instead of hating humans, I can live while learning to love them. Nezu thanks you. While locked in the attic, I received an old dictionary from my brother. I taught myself to read and write from it, though I couldn't understand everything, but now I think I finally get it. This is the true meaning of connection. The next day, when the first rays of sunlight hit the window, it was the official start of Stio's first workday at the guild. Stio's new look almost made the manager not recognize him. Your kid wearing the guild uniform looks pretty handsome too. Oh, who's this branch chief? Is this a new person? That's right, Rosalie, his name is Estio. He's the new member who joined us yesterday. But he's not working in employment, support, magic support, or combat support. Didn't you say he's a talent user? But he's not in magic or combat. His ability is a bit special. At least we have to wait for a response from higher-ups before deciding. The manager asked Stio if he likes candy, then placed a jar full of colorful candies in front of him. Not knowing which color to choose, he just took one randomly. So you do know how to enjoy yourself after all. Most people don't know what they taste like, but honestly, candy is the best. I knew I was right about you. Looks like Stio shares my candy taste. The manager kept talking non-stop, leaving you unsure what to do. Only the girl named Rosalie understands our boss and is used to this scene. Don't mind him, Estio, he's always like that. So Stio got curious about the candy in his hand, wondering if it tastes good and why the manager likes it so much. So he put the candy in his mouth to try and see how it tastes. But instead of tasting good, it hurt more. We still don't know which department you'll join, so just assist us for now. After passing through the first door, you'll reach our workplace. Inside is a spacious room where everyone is busy handling files and documents. Have you ever seen a black rubber band here? Stio, I've been looking for it for a while, but haven't found it anywhere. I've never seen one either. It would be great to have one. And so the two kept looking at each other without saying a word, making the atmosphere fall silent. Your kid is so dumb. I mean, if you don't have anything to do, go buy some and bring it here. Use the guild seal. You just need to stamp it on the receipt. By the way, buy some unicorn feather pins too. After Sko went out to buy the items, someone showed him the way. Those things are sold in a grocery store near the square. When you arrived, the shopkeeper was busy searching for something up high. May I ask if you sell black rubber bands and unicorn markers here? Sorry, sir, but you'll have to manage on your own. I'm very busy right now. After a while of rummaging, the girl finally found the item she wanted. It seemed to be a blue crystal ball. At this moment, the shopkeeper noticed Esther and asked what she wanted to buy. But then the girl suddenly saw Nezu. She was terrified and shouted, "Monster!" accidentally slipping off the ladder and falling down. Then Estio reacted quickly and caught her just in time before she got hurt. Afterwards, he didn't forget to explain that his friend wasn't a monster. It's a white-furred monkey named Nezu. Seeing Estio's handsome face up close, the girl blushed deeply with embarrassment. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm a bit afraid of animals. So it's your pet. It's Nezu, not a pet. Please call it correctly. Seeing that Nezu didn't seem aggressive, the girl calmed down. She introduced herself as Sally. Estio told Sally he wanted to buy a set of black rubber bands and a unicorn marker. After a moment, Sally brought the items he wanted to buy, sir. At this point, Sally suddenly remembered she had dropped the magic crystal ball when she fell down the stairs. She anxiously searched everywhere, then Estio reminded her. You dropped it over there. Luckily, you found it. Thank you, sir. After buying the items, Estio was about to leave, but Sally stopped him and asked his name. He said his name was Estio. Then Sally asked Estio, "Do you mind trying this before you go?" "What is it?" "This is a new product I risked a lot to get. The magic crystal ball can read your heart. They say you can see the colors of a person's emotions." "Isn't that romantic?" "No, I don't need anything like that." "But why?" "Because no one wants to read another person's heart. Powers like mind reading, memory reading, or emotion reading are the most useless abilities in the world." The next day, the supervisor decided to assign Estio to work in the special support department. The manager handed him a paper and told him to read this. "This is a commission from a 10-year-old girl, a puppy who won't listen. Please help her become a good dog." The special support department handles requests that don't require combat experience. The clients are mostly high-ranking nobles. The commission request is a bit vague, but whatever. As long as there's money, I'll do it. Most of these requests are judged by customer satisfaction. If STP accepts Yahello, it's considered a success. If they cancel or request a different member, it's a failure. The manager reminded Estio that if he displeases the nobles, his future life could be ruined, so he must be careful. "Don't be fooled, she's just a noble kid." "A kid is still a noble. You have to serve her with all your heart." "Good luck, Estio. I hope this commission results in a well-behaved little puppy." As usual, before starting the mission, Estio picked a candy from the jar. He put it in his mouth, chewed, and thought to himself, it still tasted like the last time. Then Estio went to the noble family's mansion. Fabian told the two guards at the door that he was here because of a commission sent to Guild Ignis. After checking, they allowed him inside. Just as he stepped into the mansion, Estio heard continuous barking. Compared to the two fighting dogs before, the sound wasn't as loud, but in terms of audacity, they were just as bad, if not worse. Having raised some small guard dogs before, I know how fierce these guys can be. They have a bad temper and even bite their owners. "Here we go again. Get lost, you human." At this moment, a little girl ran out of the house calling the dog Hiru. She was Hiru's owner, but even her own master wasn't respected by Hiru. Whenever the girl tried to get close or touch it, it would growl and chase her away. "Come on, introduce yourself as someone from the Ignis Guild. This time you're here to deal with the dog that won't listen to its owner." I thought the visitor would be a grumpy old man, but is the weakling named Estio also working at the guild? "How old are you?" "I'm 17 this year." The dog growls and threatens to chase Estio away whenever he stays here instead of leaving. No matter how fierce dogs are, when they meet a white-furred monkey like Nezu, they have to back down or else they'll get beaten up badly. Then the noble girl finally noticed Nezu. This was the first time she had seen a white-furred monkey up so close. Moreover, Nezu was very gentle, not fierce like the white-furred monkeys rumored about. Looking at the cute little monkey, the girl also wanted to catch one to keep. "I'm Saraline, but people usually call me Sarah. Miss, it's very dangerous. White-furred monkeys are among the beasts. Miss shouldn't get close to it. You should only watch from afar." "All right then, if you want to stand from afar, stand from afar." That's our beautiful and kind-hearted Miss as expected. Then she turned back to Estio. "I heard you can read the hearts of animals. Please find out why my Hiru acts hostile toward others." At this time, the dog named Hiru was suppressed by Nezu's aura and no longer dared to bark at the main character. Seeing that, Estio told Nezu to step back for a while so Hiru would feel more comfortable. Then he slowly sat down in front of Hiru. This time he was no longer oppressed by the white-furred monkey's aura, but strangely the dog didn't bark at all. The two calmly looked straight into each other's eyes. This was the first time everyone saw Hiru so silent. Then Estio took off his gloves and slowly reached his hand out in front of Hiru. He said to him, "I won't hurt you." As if sensing Estio's good intentions, Hiru slowly approached and rubbed his head against his hand. When Estio touched Hiru's body directly, he saw his memories. Inside a dark, damp room, Hiru and his mother were locked inside a cage. When Hiru's mother became weak and could no longer give birth to puppies to sell to wealthy nobles, she was thrown away like trash by humans. At that moment, Hiru could only helplessly watch everything. "Mom, where are you going? Please don't leave me behind." It seems that small breeds are trending among nobles now. They have to be very small to sell for a high price. We only need to feed it just enough so it doesn't starve to death. "Isn't that Viscount Fabian? Please wait a moment. I'll quickly wash it and bring it to you right away." "Mom, I'm scared. Save me. This world is cold and scary. Humans took my mother away. They're the ones who made me suffer." "Ah, Saraline, happy birthday to my beloved daughter. This is your birthday gift. Take good care of it, okay?" "Thank you, Dad. The more I look at Hiru, the cuter he is. You're super adorable." "Ah, it hurts, Hiru. You get out of here right now." "Don't, Dad. I will take good care of him. Hiro is my puppy. A dog biting its owner is no longer a dog. How do you plan to raise something so stupid and cruel? Send it to the guild for trust. If even they can't train it, then I'll throw it out. That was the whole memory of Hiro that Estio saw. Miss Saraline asked you how things are going. Doesn't it like something everything scares Hiro? All the love you gave it. This child thinks it's never been loved because humans will one day treat him the same way they treated his mother. Hearing that, Saraline bit her lip, her hand clenched tightly on her dress. Why I'm the one who likes Hiro the most. If I had the ability to read hearts, I'd treat him even better. Stowe thinks just reading hearts is not everything. Hiro's mother was killed by humans, and he was forced to starve to increase his value. Have you ever thought of ways to soothe his fear? Hiro's mother really died, yes. He is too old and weak to have more puppies, so he was discarded by humans. Saraline couldn't hold back her heartbreak. Tears fell from the little girl's eyes. I had no idea at all. What could I do when I didn't know? Miss, please don't cry anymore. You must not lose your elegance. I only meant well. I just want the best for Hiro. At that moment, Estio began using his power, allowing Saraline and her dog Hiro to communicate telepathically for a short time. Saraline was surprised to realize she could understand what Hiro wanted to express. Sarah being honest is a bit hard to understand. But Sarah loves me a lot, right? She has never beaten or hated me. Then Hiro actively rubbed his head against Sarah's leg. The girl also said to Hiro, "Can I hug you?" "Of course. Just don't lift me up too fast." Sarah lifted Hiro into her arms. She gently stroked the dog's head, making him very comfortable. After all that time, Hiro finally accepted Sarah as his owner. The maid was also happy for the young lady, as her wish had come true. The Ignis Guild is truly amazing. Thank you, Estio. Even though you were the one who requested it, I didn't know this power existed all along. I had no idea about Hiro at all. I was so mistaken. Even though Hiro kept telling me that she wasn't wrong, Miss Sarah. Those who sold Hiro were the ones at fault. Hiro just misunderstood your intentions because they were completely different from what she had experienced. After completing the 10-year-old noble girl's request, Estio received a Sugalite as a reward. As he was about to say goodbye and return to the guild, Sarah's father appeared. I'm not following you on purpose. I just happened to be heading home as well. But when I reached the garden fence, I heard Saraline crying. Dad, I'm not crying that loudly. Even my brother heard it. Right, Jeremy? That's right, Father. My sister's voice really was very loud. What are you two talking about? We have guests at home. Oh, right. You're the member sent by Ignis, right? Yes, sir. I'm Stio from Ignis's Special Support Division. From my observation, your power is used to handle quite unusual situations. What exactly is this ability? It's the power to read the hearts of injured animals. Sir, listen. Sarah's father suddenly changed his tone. Stio, you're shameless. Don't you know what happens when a commoner like you dares to lie in front of nobility? I'm quite curious what exactly you define as an animal. Is it based on intellect or soul? What about human-animal hybrids? If you can't answer that, then your real ability is nothing more than mind reading. At that moment, Stio heard Sarah's brother's inner voice. No way. If he really could read other people's hearts, would he be a monster who reads others' hearts? That's quite an interesting power. I've encountered many powers and heard countless stories, but I've never seen anyone as special as you. A unique ability, just like your name. Do you understand what I'm saying? There is only one job in this world that you can do. I will soon send a request to Gil, saying that Sarah's father entered the house, leaving Estio in the main hall. Sarah approached and spoke to him. So your name is Estio? I almost let you leave without even knowing your name. Anyway, thanks. Next time I'll call on you again. Sarah's brother suddenly asked Estio, does your ability have no limits? I can't read everything. I won't read you. So please don't worry. Are you sure? Didn't you just say you'd only read some things but end up reading everything? If you're done, then go home. I said get out of our house now. No, he is our guest. What are you doing? Estio, help me and Hiro. That guy is dangerous. Listen to me. Sarah, no, I really hate you. After that, Estio left the Fabian family mansion. He lifted his face to the sky, his gaze staring off into the distance, aimless. No matter where I go, people still see me as a monster. Estio, humans really are strange. Nezu was very happy that Estio could read my heart. Estio knew my thoughts without me having to say a word. That's probably why they hate him. No one wants their thoughts to be seen through. I think that's exactly why humans are so strange. But Estio isn't someone to be afraid of, right? To Nezu, you are much kinder than others, and you have a compassionate heart too. The scary thing isn't Estio, but the thoughts others hide. Estio reached out and patted Nezu's head. No matter who gets angry or scared of me, or even thinks I'm a monster, I don't care. Compared to being locked alone in the attic for years, walking together like this makes me feel alive again. The guild management praised Estio for completing the assigned task excellently. I knew you'd do a great job. Looks like the Lord had noticed you before, huh? Congratulations. Nobles usually like special things, don't they? Since Estio has special abilities, it's easy to guess. But this is even faster than I expected. Special support request to Guild Ignis Jefferson Company, holding the largest gemstone trade share in the city, suddenly closed for unknown reasons, causing difficulty for jewelers. Searching for company owner Thompson to investigate reasons. Upon completing the first request, 1 sugul was paid. If the second request is also completed, 3 suguls will be paid. Nezu, let's go. Hey, Stio, be careful. Remember to come back early. On the way back, if convenient, buy some melon bread too. Which way do we go, Stio? We just follow the main road on the map from the guild to the southernmost tip. That far. Walking would take about an hour. All right. Should Nezu wait for Estio? Nezu runs way faster than Estio. If we walk too long, Estio will get tired. That's not necessary. I'm fine. I thought I could finally help Estio a bit. Turns out I'm just not good enough. All right. Then I'm counting on you, Nezu. See, Estio? Nezu runs really fast. Thanks to you. Truly a fantastic runner. After arriving, Estio knocked and asked if anyone was inside, but got no answer. What do we do now, Estio? According to what we got, the owner lives in this building. Even though the business closed, this is his home, so he won't leave. So that person is inside. I'm not sure. Maybe he just stepped out. Estio sat leaning against the door, waiting for the person he wanted to find to return. Nezu asked, "It's cold out. Are you still going to wait?" You said I'm fine. Night came quickly. It got colder outside. At this point, the person inside couldn't stand it anymore and came out to talk to Esther. Hey, you there. Are you crazy? I thought the cold weather would discourage you and make you leave. Are you Thompson, the owner of Jefferson Company? Who I am doesn't concern you. Sent here by some nobles, right? I'm not doing any business here, so leave. This is the first time I've seen someone as stubborn as you. I was just asking, but you're not trying to kill yourself, are you? My house has become a perfect place for suicide, huh? 2 blocks down is a bridge. They say the river water there is warm. So go there to do it. That's not it. If not, why are you sitting outside someone else's door? Please leave quickly. While they argued, Estio touched the man's hand and accidentally read his memories. Thong's son has a beautiful wife named Tin. Thong's son fell in love at first sight, so being accepted when he proposed felt like a dream. However, their married life was filled with long days of suffering ahead. Their first child, Tin, died just before her first birthday. Then the second and third child as well. It was a cycle of pregnancy and miscarriage. Extreme stress caused her to become depressed. She didn't even want to look at the baby even after its first birthday. And then cracks began to form between the two of them. Finally, Tom's son decided to close the company and spent all his time focusing on caring for his little daughter. Back to reality. Esther told Thompson that if his wife didn't want to talk, he should just try ignoring her. If someone refuses to accept the truth, no matter how much you push, they won't listen. Thompson suddenly grabbed Esther by the collar, threw him inside the house, and shut the door. What are you? How do you know about my wife? Calm down and answer. I'm from the Ignis Guild, those damn nobles. Haven't they dug enough into my private life that they even sent a request to Gil? But just by looking at him, you can tell he's weak. Is he really the worst member of their side? A bunch blinded by greed for jewels. Forgive me for the loss. I am the owner of Jefferson Company. What request brought you here? So, it's a request for help so I can reopen my business again. Lords sure are very impatient, huh? Hello, Estio, right? Come inside and talk. Not Estia. My name is Estio. Have a drink as an apology. What would you like, young people? Like you usually like sweet, things like tequila with fruit, right? Hey, guy, you seem a bit lacking in smarts. At times like this, if you drink and pick up on others' moods, maybe your request will stand a chance. To make this mission succeed, wouldn't you need to have a good relationship with me? It's quite surprising that you mentioned my wife. Revealing someone else's private life isn't a good thing. When talking about others, you have to consider the circumstances. I'm sorry, I was a bit abrupt talking about your wife. To be honest, you're too naive and childish. Why would Gil send someone like this here? Anyway, I have no plans to reopen the business anytime soon. You seem pretty calm. Aren't you going to ask why? Then why do you think about not reopening the business? Just as I thought, this kid isn't even interested. I gave up my wife and daughter. Even if the whole world offered their hand, I wouldn't trade them for anything. But since last year, no, for several years now, my wife's condition hasn't been good. After losing our first child, I haven't seen her smile on her face anymore. She gradually spoke less. And finally, after giving birth to Leah, she didn't even want to leave her room. There was a time I forced her to go out, and she reacted violently, even biting her own tongue. Luckily, nothing serious happened. My wife would rather die than see her daughter. After saying that, Thompson collapsed and sobbed uncontrollably. At this moment, Stio thought this couldn't be true. My ability was activated and I didn't even know. Thompson continued. I just calmed down a bit after putting Leah to sleep. But the story probably lasted longer than expected. Anyway, sorry for causing your mission to fail. But at least this year, I still have no plans to reopen. You should tell them to find supply sources from other companies. If I told you that your wife's condition could improve, would you reopen the company? If that's the case, maybe I can help you. I can get your wife out of her room. What the hell? Get her out of the room. How do you plan to do that? Then Stio didn't answer but touched Thompson's forehead with his finger. He immediately heard a voice echo inside his head. Please don't be afraid. That's Nezuko's thought. Please, Stio isn't a bad person. But after waking up, he was very scared. Just now, there was a voice inside my head, and Stio revealed that it was his special ability. Finally, Thompson decided to let you meet his wife. Stio was led to a locked room on the second floor. Thompson gently knocked on the door. It's me, my love. We have a guest. Inside the room, it was silent with no sound in response. Seeing this, Thompson had no choice but to open the door and walk in. Inside the room was a woman with loose hair sitting alone on a chair. Her eyes were completely empty, without any emotion. Stio slowly placed his hand on the girl's head. Then he focused his mind, slowly closing his eyes. This girl's inner world was too quiet. Should I push it a little harder? If so, how strong should it be? I've never had to adjust the power like this before. This will probably be the first time I willingly use it. Suddenly, a swirl of dark energy appeared above the girl's head. Then it spread throughout the room, causing Thompson to cover his eyes. When he woke up, everyone was already in a forest. At that moment, a strange black smoke appeared in the sky. Thompson looked up in panic. After a brief moment of chaos, the group resumed their exploration journey. In the forest, he only saw a basket full of wild grass on the ground. Not far away, a large axe was firmly stuck in the stump of a freshly cut tree. Around it were neatly stacked logs. At that moment, Stio suddenly sensed a strange aura. He immediately turned his head back cautiously. Instantly, a female voice came from behind. It's really hot. In weather like this, do you really have to work in the fields? The group turned to look toward the source of the voice, while a soft sigh from Tin echoed in the peaceful air. I really want to rest today. As soon as she saw her, Thompson, still confused, suddenly called out loudly to Tin. A flash of embarrassment passed through him. She was still the same as before. What to do? Stio's eyes sank. He glanced after Tin's figure. Although it wasn't my intention right now, Stio logically guessed that this was his wife's memory. Turning back to Tin, she was humming a familiar tune as she walked. Tin suddenly wondered if she should go relax at the lake with John. A day out would probably be fine. Tin is the daughter of a poor farmer. Her mother passed away before she was even aware. And as she grew older, her father also followed her mother. Left beside her were only two younger siblings who needed care. Faced with this cruel situation, Tin could only painfully hold her two siblings' hands tightly. Since that day, Tin has raised her two siblings by herself. Tin's hand wielded the hoe vigorously for life. She decisively used it to dig up soil for planting. Not only that, there were days in the simple wooden room when Tin focused on sewing. In her hands was an old pink teddy bear. Tin's eye gaze narrowed tightly as her hand carefully turned the bright gem. The next day, she went back to working the fields. At that moment, two children called out her name loudly. Her two younger siblings each carried a large bundle of firewood. Tin, I've gathered some branches for firewood, little Chen, they boasted. Tin I also collected some edible grass. Before they finished speaking, she quickly patted their heads gently. Oh my gosh, aren't these kids just too adorable? A little child ran over, chattering, holding out a flower branch as a gift for Tin. Hey sis, come a little closer. She hurriedly obeyed. Like this? The little girl's clear voice rang out. Her hand gently tucked the flower into Tin's hair. In that peaceful moment, Tin's heart fluttered like a soft musical note, and then she fell in love. Just as John was focused on his work, Tin's voice suddenly sounded. John, he reflexively turned around towards Tin. Before him was an incredibly beautiful and gentle young woman. They both burst into laughter, their eyes filled with simple joy. In that moment, it felt like the world belonged only to them. With an embarrassed look, Don glanced at Tin, who couldn't hide her happiness, and laughed loudly. But poverty was like a swamp drowning their happiness. In Tin's hand were only a few loose coins left. She stared blankly at them, her face showing clear worry. That's not enough to buy both food and medicine for the kids. I've even increased the workload already. Suddenly, a boy called out loudly to Tin. He tilted his head curiously. I heard Doan propose to you, yes. Hearing that, she could only give a wry smile. Doan told you, that guy really? My sister still hasn't married. Do you know she's already rejected him 3 times? After a moment of hesitation, Tin reluctantly admitted, but we've decided to break up. She lowered her head, her voice soft but firm. I have no intention of marrying him. I need to let him know as soon as possible. Then Tin and John parted ways. Cut to a villa designed in a modern style. At the same time, Tin was running quickly down the street. The sound of footsteps echoed rapidly. While running, Tin looked at a note. Today I still need to finish 5 more orders. She couldn't help but feel anxious inside. If I skip lunch, I might finish before sunset. Thinking this, Tin unconsciously smiled. All right, at this rate, I'll definitely win. At that moment, a man suddenly collapsed to the ground, seeing that her face showed clear confusion. Immediately after, Tin clenched the note tightly in her hand. Without hesitation, Tin quickly ran over to him. Are you okay, Tom-son? He struggled to get up from the ground, groaning softly from the pain. Back in reality, Tom-son dazedly recounted the story. That was the first time I met Tin. He admitted without hesitation. Yes, Tin saved me. Then Tom-son lay quietly on the hospital bed. She stayed right by his side. After a while, he woke up from the coma. Tom-son's face suddenly flushed, bright red like a ripe tomato. Tin quickly ran over to him, her eyes full of worry. You're awake. Time flew by. Tom-son knelt down on the ground, looking straight at her. Tin, will you marry me? Before her was a ring intricately carved with a prominent ruby. A few days later, John was chasing after Tin on all 4s. He hesitated and asked her, I heard you're planning to get married. At that moment, Tin's hand wearing the ring flashed right before John's eyes. Desperation almost consumed Dawn's mind. He screamed in agony, If you plan to leave me, I will end my life right here. As soon as he finished speaking, Dawn took out a strange bottle of medicine nearby. Tin's face went pale. She couldn't help but feel terrified. Suicide. He confirmed again, his voice trembling but resolute. Yes, I can't imagine life without you. At the last moment, John shouted powerfully, Tin, please come back to me. At this time, Tin's expression seemed a bit unwilling. Then she turned away bluntly and refused. Do whatever you want. I don't care. I'll turn my back and leave without a shred of pity. Whether you die or not has nothing to do with me. We've been cut off for a long time. Her words cut into Dawn's heart like a sharp knife. He staggered after her. What? How could you say that? Tin turned her back once and looked back. If you're done talking, I'm leaving. Before leaving, she softly mouthed the words as a farewell. I hope you find a good girl and live happily. Dawn's words contradicted Tin's assumptions. Suddenly, he twisted the medicine bottle hard. Immediately, a thud echoed beside her ear. Sensing something was wrong, she hurriedly turned her body toward Dawn. No, on the ground was his body. Tin rushed anxiously toward Dawn. She cried miserably, begging in despair. Dawn, please wake up, Tom-son recounted helplessly. I never knew there was another man who fell in love with Tin. Estio boldly made the judgment. It seems she didn't want her husband to know. Right after, he bluntly concluded that she felt as if she was cursed. Hearing this, he clenched his fist tightly, unwilling to admit it. Tom-son lowered his head in pain. After all, the reason she married me was ultimately for money, right? Hearing that, Estio's voice immediately rang out. That might be true. After all, she refused a poor farmer to follow someone who could give her expensive jewels. He sighed helplessly. Just then, he suddenly scrutinized Tom-son. If that's truly the reason, would you change your decision? Surprised by the question, he froze. What Estio's voice rang steadily, soft yet piercing, straight into Thompson's heart. If your wife's decision was influenced by money and poverty, if she coveted what you had, but at the last moment he posed a decisive question, would your wife still be one of the 2 most precious people in the world that you told me about? After a moment of silence, his voice rose as if every word was weighed from the depths of his heart. No, she wouldn't. Tin is still the one I cherish most. Immediately, Estio turned to look directly at Tom-son. Then what has changed? He looked at him blankly, lips slightly parted. Nothing has changed. Thompson's voice grew heavy. That's right, Tin is still my precious wife. He admitted painfully, but the truth was she was trapped in these memories. Then Tom-son couldn't help but shout out, It makes me angry that she gave up the chance to grasp happiness for herself. Saying this, he suddenly choked up, as if struggling with an unnamed pain. Tin would feel nothing anymore, even if her daughter died at that moment. Tin looked directly at the newborn baby once. Tom-son held the child with one hand and softly pleaded, Tin, please, Just hold our daughter at least once. At the same time, Esther pressed her hand firmly on the armrest. It's not that she feels nothing. Estio leaned forward, observing Tin. The truth was she was deeply anguished. He repeated with confusion. She was deeply anguished, he bluntly confirmed. Yes, then Estio added, your wife believes every lost child is the price for her sins. Thompson's voice broke as if he couldn't believe what he just heard. How could that be? As the words ended, he bowed his head as if unable to refute. Thompson took heavy steps toward her. Tin he knelt beside her, looking straight into her eyes. It's not your fault, Thompson gently took Tin's cold, distant hand. Leia, our daughter is not dead. She's alive and will be strong in the future. She's waiting for you. Saying this, his voice nearly broke, so please don't blame yourself anymore and come back to us. Thompson used all his sincerity to hold on to her. There's no reason for you to hurt yourself. If there is any pain, let's overcome it together. On this side, Tin's eyes were still empty, like a soulless person. Yet he didn't give up and quietly whispered by her ear, because we are family. Suddenly, the door shattered, shards of glass flying out immediately. Thompson hurriedly shielded Tin with his body. What suddenly happened? She gently stirred her eyes wide open, looking at him warmly. Thompson turned to look at Tin with surprise. Tin, at the same time, Leia suddenly burst into tears. The two reflexively turned back. Hearing that, she quickly stood up, her eyes scanning Leia. Immediately after, Tin ran swiftly forward without saying a word. A dark staircase appeared in the silent scene. Above a small object dangled in midair a spinning toy wheel. She first gently hugged the baby to her chest. Sorry, Leia. Sorry that Mom isn't here with you. Meanwhile, Thompson's hand gently rested on her shoulder. He quickly took out a baby bottle. She's hungry. Whenever I hear her cry, I immediately notice. Thompson didn't forget to ask, Han. You must be hungry too, right? We have chicken soup, Tin replied softly. Thank you. He couldn't hide his happiness as he hugged Tin. Thank you. Meanwhile, Estio's hand gripped the staircase tightly. Then suddenly his hand relaxed along with his whole body. Estio immediately fell forward. The group shouted in panic. Estio. The pitch-black night sky covered the quiet street. The large door of a villa echoed with rapid knocking. Then the village chief mumbled as he stepped out to open the door, still half asleep. All right, I'm coming. What's going on at this hour? Immediately the door creaked open. Before him was a surprising scene. Thompson was tightly holding the unconscious Steve. His face was flushed and sweat dotted his forehead. After a while, the village chief shone a light on Estio's face. He used his hand to open Estio's eyes to check his pupils. After observing for a while, the chief sighed involuntarily. He hesitated for a moment, then asked in a voice, could this young man have a power ability? Thompson quickly confirmed yes. He nodded slightly, his voice trembling with worry. He ended up like this right after using his power. The village chief looked at Estio, then fell silent thoughtfully. So the problem lies with the power. This is beyond my expertise. But on the bed, Estio still closed his eyes tightly, breathing unevenly. Hearing this, Thompson repeated with confusion, beyond your expertise, where should we go then? The village chief replied helplessly, there's no clinic in Galaxy that can cure power abilities. Then the chief was silent for a few seconds before nodding slightly as if confirming. Perhaps this happened because he's never lost control of his power before. In most cases, resting well is enough, so just try waiting a few days to see. Finally, he spoke slowly but gravely. Depending on the situation, you should request help from the related guild. As Thompson sighed, Tin suddenly tapped his shoulder gently. Seeing that Thompson, confused, turned to see Nezu leaning close to Estio's bedside. Witnessing that scene, Thompson and Tin could only look at each other. He snorted coldly. What are you doing? At the same time, Nezu gently took Estio's hand. A few hours earlier, Nezu had screamed in panic. Estio looked so pained. Hearing this, Thompson's expression turned shocked. You just said to come back to reality, he softly called to Nezu. No response, just sorrowful crying beside him. After a while, Thompson scratched his head and said, Leia is still at home, so we have to go back first. I'll pay the expenses, so don't worry. If you need help, just come find me. Hearing this, Nezu tilted his head as if thinking. Then with a worried look, he asked, what about the trust? At the sudden question, he glanced at Tin, who only smiled instead of nodding. Immediately, Thompson turned his head to him, his voice lowering slightly. You want me to reopen the business, right? Because of the benefactor, of course I will. My wife's heart has been healed, so no need to worry. I'll leave this guy with you. Upon confirmation, Nezu nodded without hesitation, reassured. Shortly after, Thompson and Tin quickly stepped outside. In the quiet room, a wheelchair sat alone in the corner. Next to it was a cluttered medical instrument table. On the hospital bed, Estio lay still, his face pale from exhaustion. At that moment, he softly called his name, Estio. Nezu's voice trembled, echoing throughout the room. The person you helped has returned to normal. The commission was successful. You did it. He then sat quietly beside Estio, lips gently moving, his eyes half closed, unable to hide the heavy sadness. Shortly after, Nezu painfully lowered his head. Wake up quickly and come home. The next morning, the first light of day bathed the city. Cut to a cozy room. At this time, Estio woke up from a long sleep. He glanced around, his breath weak. Then Estio slumped forward to sit up, his gaze still dazed as if lost. After a while, Estio blankly looked to the side and saw Nezu staring at him with watery eyes. Without a word, he rushed over and hugged Estio tightly. The village chief asked him worriedly, "Are you sure you don't want to rest a few more days to stabilize your condition?" Estio forced a smile. "I've been bedridden for 2 whole days, that's enough." Then one person and one companion left down a snow-covered road. Cut to a shop with a sign guaranteeing customer satisfaction. Welcome to Ignis Gilbert the Best with a 9.9% commission success rate. Inside, golden coins scattered on the table, Hack smiled excitedly without hiding his thrill. "I've supported many talents with these hands, but this is the first time a member has delivered results this quickly as you have." Estio asked confusedly, "Really?" He confirmed once again precisely. Hack kept talking non-stop. "Do you know your reputation has already spread far? Not just here, but even among nobles in the neighboring city. No, do you know what people are saying?" Hearing that, he repeated with a puzzled look, "What are they saying?" At that moment, Hack's voice echoed in his ears. "Estio, a being with a unique and unmatched power, has appeared." Later, he and Nezu stood before a mansion. Estio clenched the paper tightly. He looked up at Viscount Fabian. Estio bowed his head to look down at the paper in his hand, the Viscount's commission. The details hinted at a reward, but after thinking it over, confusion clearly showed on his face. What are they asking for now? After a moment, polite soldiers welcomed Estio inside. Estio and Nezu slowly entered the main mansion. At this moment, Hiru excitedly rushed toward him. He eagerly leaned close to Estio. Estio called Hiru's name in Sarpers. Hiru happily wagged his tail, eyes sparkling as he looked at him. "Estio, long time no see." Hearing that, he immediately leaned closer to Hiru. At the same time, Saralane appeared with a sulky face. "Do you like Estio more than me?" She quickly turned around and barked loudly as if to confirm. She sighed softly, half sad, half resigned. "I really can't beat Estio." "Yes." Saralane raised her head, voice as light as a breeze. "So did you come here alone?" She glanced at what Estio was holding. "Is that a summons from your father?" After a moment of hesitation, she bowed in greeting. "Anyway, it's nice to see you again." He nodded slightly. "Yes." Suddenly, she asked, "What about Estio?" He was silent for a moment, then quickly answered, "Not bad either." Receiving the answer, Saralane stepped closer. "Estio, chubby cheeks, huh? Not bad means good or not." Later, he looked up at her half-jokingly. "Aren't you afraid I can read other people's hearts?" Sherilyn smiled brightly as if unguarded. "No, not at all." Hearing this, Estio threatened, "I could find out the secrets you always want to hide and spread them everywhere." She tilted her head, eyes thoughtful. "That would be a little embarrassing." Before Saralane could react, he added, "What if I control your emotions?" Saralane's face lit up, answering without hesitation, "That would be great." Right after, Estio slumped and stood up. He glanced at her in surprise. "You're not afraid?" Saralane looked up at Estio like a lost soul, then replied nonchalantly, "Why be afraid?" Estio widened his eyes at Saralane, his gaze full of surprise and confusion. At that moment, the butler called out loudly, "Miss." He carefully bowed his head. "Pardon me for interrupting your conversation, but the master is waiting." Hearing this, Saralane immediately put on a weary expression. The butler hurriedly reminded the young lady. She turned away reluctantly. "I understand. Instead, before you leave, you must come see me, okay? Don't try to sneak away." Right after, Saralane raised her pinky finger and smiled softly. "Promise me." In a room nearby, neatly arranged, inside, the Viscount stood facing one direction. Upon hearing footsteps, he spoke, "Come in, Estio." Politely bowing, "I came after receiving your request." The Viscount said nothing, but instead gave a probing, mysterious question. "Tell me, do you know the cactus?" On the table lay neatly a cactus and a cross. Estio answered honestly, "No, sir." Suddenly, the Viscount reached out to touch the cactus. How can a green plant grow in a desert where there's barely any water? Isn't that quite miraculous? Then the Viscount shared a flood of knowledge. Because it's a plant, it's not that it doesn't need water at all. But if watered like ordinary plants, it will rot and die. His voice steady, Estio explained the moisture can't be too little or too much. It needs sufficient soil and sunlight too. A plant more adaptable than you think, its size and condition depend on who tends it. Then Estio spoke with a hint of meaning. If the owner doesn't know its value, they could easily kill the plant. He lowered his face, thoughtful for a moment. After a while, the Viscount turned to look at Estio. That's right. His eyes fixed on him. But can you read the mind inside the plant? At this request, Estio remained silent, squinting and staring at the Viscount. Estio's gaze locked onto the Viscount's hand holding the Uhuru plant. His look began to widen, almost penetrating its soul. Immediately, Uhuru complained loudly, "Damn it!" Upon hearing this, Estio flinched unconsciously. At that moment, the Viscount stepped closer to him, tilting his head toward Uhuru. "It's hard to say plants have thoughts." It angrily shouted, "Old man talks too much over here." Estio's face nearly darkened, very embarrassed. Then the Viscount suddenly came close to Estio. "A cactus has no choice, but you have the right to choose the master who will support you." Then the Viscount made an offer. "Estio, become my subordinate. That doesn't mean I'm only recruiting you." His voice carried weight. "You will become a member of the Fabian family." Estio blinked, voice unchanged but cautious. "Are you saying I will become a soldier under you?" The Viscount forced a laugh. "Not a soldier. I don't intend to use you like an ordinary soldier." He smirked slightly, then paused, his gaze deeper than ever. "I will appoint you as an advisor." In the quiet mansion bathed in afternoon light, the Viscount's voice was steady but authoritative. "A position no one in this house dares disrespect. The only one you answer to is me, Viscount Fabian. You will enjoy the highest privileges as a civilian." Then Estio looked up, his eyes steady. "What will I have to do?" Hearing this, the Viscount's eyes unconsciously lit up. "You will do things only you can do." Then he reached out and gently patted Estio's shoulder. "Very simple." He leaned closer, a slight smile. "You just need to read the minds of the people I choose." As soon as he said this, Uhuru immediately shouted, "Don't trust him. It's a trick, just the words of someone who manipulates others." Hearing this, Estio immediately refused but kept his manners. "Thank you very much for your offer, but I am satisfied with my current work." The Viscount paused, then proposed, "Why not?" He gave a dry laugh as if hearing a bad joke. "Seems there's some misunderstanding." Then the Viscount stepped closer to Estio, seriously declaring, "This is an order." Estio stood still without avoiding, but his gaze clearly showed caution. "What will happen if I don't obey you?" The Viscount calmly replied, "Nothing yet, but it will surely follow you soon." Uhuru couldn't help but sneer. "So confident, people might even think you're a prophet." But Estio remained unfazed, just slightly, bowing his head in a polite nod. "Excuse me, but if you want me to change jobs, please discuss it with Gil first." Hearing that, the man suspiciously asked, "So in the end, you won't volunteer to come here?" The Viscount tilted his head, pondering. "If he agreed this easily, that would be troublesome. This way is much better. At least with this level, I can use him properly." After a moment, he kindly made a proposal. "I'll give you some time to decide what's best." Then the Viscount brought Uhuru closer to the butler. "Throw this away. I'll replace this picky plant with a beautiful flower." "Yes," he immediately obeyed. "Yes, sir." It angrily shouted, "Where are you touching? Let me go, you human. Let go right now." Then the butler politely showed the way and invited him this way. The two quickly walked down the dark corridor. At this moment, Uhuru kept resisting, its voice filled with grievance. "Are you planning to abandon me? My spikes haven't even pricked anyone yet." When Estio stopped, his eyes fixed on the dusty, small, spiked cactus. After a moment of hesitation, Estio stammered, "If you're going to throw it away, can I have it?" The butler replied confusedly, "Give it to you." He tightened his grip around the potted plant, which had no flowers and was full of thorns and was difficult to care for. Then Estio reached out to Uhuru. "It's nothing, I'm sure it won't bloom." Hearing that, the butler handed it over to him. "All right." Before leaving, he reminded, "Miss Saraline asked you to wait, so please stay here a bit longer." Meanwhile, Uhuru suddenly spoke weakly. "It's so cold, I'll freeze to death before being burned alive." Freezing to death would probably hurt less, right? Estio looked down at it, trembling from the cold. "I won't kill you," it reflexively responded. Suddenly, Uhuru fell silent, sensing something unusual. After a while, he affirmed once more, I won't burn or freeze you, but this is the first time I've seen a cactus, so I don't know whether heat or cold is better for you. Estio hesitated before continuing. When you're thirsty, be honest and tell me. He looked straight at Uhuru, his gaze gentler than spring sunshine. Since I can hear your voice, if something's uncomfortable, just say it. After a brief silence, it cautiously asked, Are you a deity? Estio immediately answered without hesitation. I am Estio. Hearing that Uhuru loudly introduced itself, I'm you. Complaining at length, it forced a laugh. Sorry, normal plants are always like this. Estio cleverly named it. I will call you Uhuru Nezu. Looking at him proudly, Estio could even talk to plants. That's pretty cool. Faced with the praise, Estio felt a bit awkward. Soon after, he couldn't help but smile with delight. Then Estio brought Uhuru right before his eyes. This is Uhuru Nezu, politely greeting, Hello, I'm Nezu, you're so tiny and cute. It replied in a shy voice, Thank you, you look cute too. Suddenly he raised his hand to gently touch Uhuru. You're not prickly. It shyly said, because Estio is gentle, but if you touch the spikes the right way, it hurts a lot. Estio made a bewildered face. That works too. Uhuru quickly confirmed, Of course, but I still can't move my body comfortably. Hearing this, he couldn't help but feel curious. Can't yet? It asked, suspiciously inspecting him. You don't know. After a moment, Uhuru explained thoroughly. If we live long enough or become strong enough, we can move freely. It proudly showed off. Though still young, my willpower is strong enough that I can at least move my spikes. Esteo stared intently at Uhuru. Just with willpower, you can move. But that peaceful moment was broken. Jeremian suddenly shouted, Didn't I tell you not to come here anymore? Hearing the sound, Estio reflexively turned around. He looked at him irritably, his voice full of contempt. Is your memory really that bad? Heavy footsteps echoed on the cold stone floor, accompanied by a voice half mocking, half scornful. Do you take my words as a joke, commoner? Seeing this, Estio politely spoke up, immediately, Viscount. He suddenly sneered with a smirk. You say you can read hearts, but turns out you can even teach animals to talk. At the same time, Nezu stared wide-eyed at Jeremy without any reaction. In the final minute, he once again sneered, What a freak. So Jeremy brazenly judged that you created a beast that can speak human language. And now you're even thinking about teaching the plant to talk. Oh dear, at this point he glanced sideways at Nezu. This white-furred monkey has already learned human speech, so it's probably a rare and beautiful pet over here. It seemed to sense Jeremy's gaze and looked up. At this moment, he casually turned toward Estio. No matter how many faces, you remain silent, eyes fixed directly on Jeremy. His hand reached out as if to grab Nezu. With that massive body, the feeding costs won't be cheap, will they? I'll take it from you. At the same time, Uhuru couldn't help but curse this kind of idiotic four-limbed creature. Estio raised his head and loudly questioned, Nezu is not merchandise. Hearing this, Jeremy seemed not to pay any attention. He arrogantly acted as if he were very clever because you could read my mind, so the negotiation ends here, just accept it. Immediately after Jeremy tightened a pile of gold coins, here are 10 gold coins. At this point, Estio showed a displeased expression. Nezu is not merchandise. He sneered with a sigh. Greed is never good, you know. Jeremy casually pointed toward Nezu and loudly asked, So how much do you want in the end? You gave a brief, firm answer, I will not sell it. After this affirmation, his face gradually twisted with anger. Jeremy shouted like a madman, wildly pointing his fingers, like martial arts moves. A common country bumpkin like you dares to look down on nobility. I've already held back from punching you in the face, yet instead you ignore my warning and stay silent. Around this house below, Nezu looked up with a worried expression. Seeing this, Estio immediately stood in front of him. I only came here because I received an invitation from the Viscount. He got furious and barked nonsense so fast, didn't he? Immediately after, Jeremy grabbed your collar tightly with a shouted, ear-piercing yell. Do you think I don't want your heart to be venomous? Nezu's voice rang out like a bell hitting his head. Don't bully Estio. Hearing this, Jeremy suddenly woke up. He was horrified, relaxing his hand, and you collapsed to the ground. It anxiously stepped closer. Are you okay, Estio? Slightly frowning, you weakly replied, I'm fine. At the same time, Jeremy's face suddenly changed. He smiled wickedly. Jeremy once again made an offer. This monkey is loyal too. I'll pay you 30 gold coins. I need to raise it. Estio couldn't help but feel confused. What? Immediately after, he bluntly beckoned, I'll send gold to Gil and someone bring this white-furred monkey to the pasture right away. Hearing this, you suddenly sat up and shouted, I already told you I'm not selling it. A moment of silence, then Jeremy hissed through clenched teeth. You dare. He shouted at Estio's resistance. Dare to raise your voice in front of a noble. Are you crazy? At this point, you squatted down, your face clearly terrified. Suddenly, soldiers had already surrounded Estio and Nezu. You briefly fell silent, your body bowed low. It's come to this. One of them immediately rushed forward. Hand over that thing immediately. Blood splattered everywhere. He screamed painfully. My hand right in front was Nezu. Its hand was covered in fresh blood. Nezu gently extended its hand forward. The claws clearly visible on the floor had long been stained with fresh blood. Witnessing the horrifying scene, the soldiers unconsciously trembled. Jeremy clenched his fist tightly, still shouting as if to mask the fear rising to his throat. You dare injure a Fabian household member. From behind, the engineer team hurried over. What's going on here? He pointed his spear at Estio. That commoner tried to kill me. Immediately detain him. Hearing this, Nezu couldn't help but retort, you're the one who called me a monster, so how come you all... At that moment, its body was covered by a net. Then it was electrified, causing Nezu immense pain. It couldn't help but feel confused and acted even more cruelly than a real monster. Seeing this, they laughed with satisfaction. Immediately, the knights tightened their sword hilts and stepped closer to Nezu. In that moment, it opened its mouth and let out a scream of rage. Hearing that, Jeremy's body instinctively leaned back. He stepped back fearfully, as if afraid Nezu would notice him. At the same time, the Viscount suddenly appeared. What's all this commotion, Jeremy? He was momentarily terrified, father. After observing for a moment, he gritted his teeth. You idiot. And the Viscount suddenly grabbed Jeremy tightly while shouting, that thing should have been in my hands. But you barged in and ruined everything. He blinked in confusion. What do you mean, father? Without explaining, he furrowed his brows. Shut up, you fool. Immediately after, the Viscount ordered sternly, soldiers, clean this up. He didn't forget to remind them. Capture him alive. As for that beast, do as you please. The knights shouted in unison as they advanced step by step. One of them suddenly began casting magic. Nezu immediately sensed something was wrong. Magic came from the other group, who looked up at them smugly. At this moment, it raised its head with bleary eyes. Nezu is sorry. Nezu just wants to be by Estio's side. Hearing this, Estio gently reassured, don't apologize. At the same time, the crazed group cursed wildly, die, monster. Die, it suddenly whispered with an implied message. It seemed that immediately after, Nezu turned back with a satisfied smile. This is the end for Nezu. Meanwhile, the knight began casting magic. Flames suddenly appeared instantly. They simultaneously launched an attack toward Estio. Smoke and fire quickly enveloped the entire palace. Jeremy shut his eyes tightly, sarcastically thinking, if you'd taken the money, none of this would have happened. Behind the thick smoke, a figure stood firm regardless. Emerging from the dense smoke, Estio gradually appeared. He spoke coldly. The one who needs to apologize isn't Nezu. Then Estio cast a sharp gaze toward the group. It's you all. Upon seeing him, the Viscount and Jeremy's group were stunned. How is this possible? He hurriedly shouted orders to the knights to seize him. The knight suddenly froze, his whole body trembling, as a golden light began to gather between his fingers. At that moment, the knight convulsed suddenly as if struck by lightning, his body twitching violently, screaming in agony, trembling as if trying to resist the pain spreading through him. Fueled by rage, reaching its peak, another knight raised his sword toward Estio. At this moment, Estio suddenly turned around. The knight was stunned, his face pale sweat pouring, stammering in utter terror. In the next scene, the knight raised his sword, then suddenly turned the blade inward toward his own chest. Seeing this, the Viscount rushed over. Briss, what are you doing? Before he could stop him, the knight plunged the sword into his chest, fresh blood splattering onto Estio's pale skin. Yet Estio remained calm to the point of anger eyes scanning forward. At this point, only 3 knights remained, their bodies starting to tremble. In that moment, Estio glanced to one side, and one of them suddenly went blank, eyes like a lost soul. Then dropped his sword and collapsed right before Estio's feet. In an instant, the knights fell one after another to the ground. He only saw Estio lower his head, his whole body radiating a dark aura. Jeremy groaned involuntarily, his body collapsing to the ground, feet crawling backward. At that moment, Estio's eyes suddenly shifted from the Cerulean steps, tears streaming down, brother. Upon Esther's appearance, only looking with cold eyes, Cerulean suddenly felt a lump in her throat, instantly falling freely downward. The Viscount hurried over Sarah. He painfully held her lifeless body tightly. Are you satisfied now? The Viscount demanded thickly. Look around you. Do you want more bloodshed here? Hearing this, Estio wondered to himself, why do I keep holding myself back? Remembering the past rejection, he became more certain there was never any reason to suppress himself from the start. At that moment, Stio clenched his fist so tightly it could bleed. Now, if I want to. Immediately, he smiled with a friendly expression. I will stop. Viscount almost itched. It's great to have a friend who understands. Then he lowered his voice and made a condition. In return, let's pretend nothing happened here. And then Viscount began to breathe heavily, his voice trembling, as if he couldn't believe what he just heard. What? A furious roar came from behind. Jeremian shouted angrily, You wicked beast murderer! You caused this mess, and now you dare to demand this. Hearing that, Stio immediately turned to look at him, but remained coldly calm, his voice low. This is not a request. Estio tilted his head and smiled once again, confirming, It's an order. Meanwhile, Jeremian was so angry he ground his teeth, and after a while his body began to convulse. Immediately after, the three family members, including Viscount Jeremian and Saraline, all collapsed to the ground. Just as Stio was about to leave, a familiar voice called out from behind. Hearing that, Stio immediately spun around. In an instant, Suki's whole body began to transform, and only Suki's tail was noticeably lengthening. Now, before Estio stood a terrifying tiger, it turned to look at Nezu. Why so distracted? You can't carry him on your own. Hearing this, Estio immediately understood, holding the net tightly and gently placing Nezu on Suki's back, not forgetting to stroke him. At the same time, Suki suddenly made a suggestion. Get on now. Estio hesitated briefly, but then Suki will get tired. Just let me walk, it replied softly and confidently. Carrying you too doesn't make much difference. Seeing this, Estio sat on Suki's back. Then I'm counting on you. Before rushing off, it reminded him, hold on tight. Despite the silent night, Suki dashed swiftly with Nezu and Estio on its back. At that moment, he softly called its name, Suki. Hearing it, Suki immediately responded clearly. So the confession Estio slowly let out, it seems I really am a monster. I can read the heart of a controller, and it even makes them end their own lives. I have killed many people. Saying this, he unconsciously felt disgusted with himself, but felt nothing at the same time. Now Estio's inner turmoil began to tear him apart. He painfully confessed, even though I know what I did was wrong, I don't feel fear or sadness. In contrast, Suki turned with a calm expression. So what? It said in a casual tone, its eyes flashing coldly. If it were me, I would have killed them all already. Suki's hand waved lightly, as if imagining sweeping away enemies. It continued. There's no reason to fear or pity those who harmed and threatened what you cherish. You're too weak. He slumped heavily onto his burdened shoulders. The result is that I'm the one who harms others. Hearing this, it reassured him. Stio, maybe you can be a little sad. After all, you never wanted to harm anyone. At the same time, Ahuru stepped in to comfort. Let me say this. There's no way someone who constantly worries if they're normal can be a monster, right? And even if you are a monster, so what? A talking monkey and a cat transforming into a tiger. Whatever it is, monsters aren't bad. You hate monsters. Faced with this interrogation, he put on a bewildered, confused face, and suddenly he was startled, reaching out as if to deny, hey, wait. In another scene, Hot suddenly shouted, what the hell did you say? The doctor awkwardly scratched his head. Sorry, but this is an order from Jaeon's superiors. He then growled, his eyes almost devouring him. Who the hell calls themselves the damn head bird? The doctor suddenly raised his hand in objection. Not a bird, but avian. Hearing this, Hot almost went crazy. Damn it. At that moment, Rosalie interrupted, breaking the tense atmosphere. Branch Chief, Mr. Forehead replied, why did your tone suddenly change? Can you calm down a bit? Hearing this, Hot's anger immediately exploded. He roared repeatedly, calm down, Rosalie. Accidentally noticing the letter on the table requesting a summons from the Special Support Department SGO Guild Branch, she lowered her head to reread the paper, her eyes showing clear confusion. The summons order was either due to pressure from the royal family or someone at headquarters considering Estio a dangerous ability user. Above all, he had been missing for 10 days, and there was also a rumor spreading around Viscount Fabian's house. In another development, the door tightly wrapped in chains suddenly appeared, and at the same time, Hack solemnly said, that kid isn't the type to harm others like that. At that moment, Rosalie suddenly called out loudly, Branch Chief! He warily turned around. What now? What happened? Immediately, she looked toward the door. Estio is back already. He walked in with a steady gait. I'm late, sorry. Hack immediately scanned Estio, pausing at his disheveled appearance. Hack stammered with emotion as if something was stuck in his throat. Wait, he only saw Estio appear with a dirt-smudged face and dried blood still on his skin. In that moment, Hack suddenly reached out to him, finally patting Estio gently on the shoulder. Well done. Faced with Hack's reaction, he couldn't help but feel some suspicion. Aren't you going to ask about my progress? He covered a smile with his hand. Naturally, you should report on the mission. Do you know how worried we were when we suddenly lost contact with you? Rosalie nodded and added, exactly. At the same time, Parker cleared his throat softly, trying to draw attention, and Hack slowly approached Estio. He scratched his head, awkwardly. Anyway, it's really good you returned safely. This job is quite challenging, so there are far too many cases where we lose capable individuals needlessly. Saying this, he suddenly looked down to us and glanced back. But where is your partner, Estio? He started confused, repeating partner. Hack quickly explained, I'm talking about your friend, the white-furred monkey. Hearing this, Estio's face clearly showed sadness, his voice somewhat gloomy. He's injured and currently resting. Then Estio softly added, he's almost recovered, but we still have to be careful. Hack's expression softened. A slight smile appeared as if some worry was eased. Luckily, the injury isn't serious. Immediately after, Hack cautiously reminded, you should rest today. It's fine to submit the report in 3 days. Parker suddenly interrupted. Sorry, but that's going to be difficult. Branch manager Hack of the Galaxy branch. He immediately turned back, frowning slightly. I only told a guild member to rest after completing a mission. Then what's so difficult about that delivery guy, Bernie? At that moment, Parker suddenly spread his wings, the feathers shining brilliantly in the light. Estio's eyes instinctively widened, his pupils shining clearly like an angel's star. Parker flew over to him. The SGO of the Galactic Branch needs to come with me to headquarters. Faced with this sudden request, his whole body froze. Parker's gaze fixed on Estio with a stern voice, immediately. After a while, wheels sped across the grassy lawn. Inside, he looked up at the outside scenery. Estio's eyes slowly closed as memories involuntarily surfaced. Hack couldn't help but to feel a little shocked. Why did you agree so easily? Estio pressed his hand firmly on the suitcase, turning his head calmly and replying, as long as I'm still in the guild, I can't refuse a decision from headquarters, right? Seeing the SGO's reaction, Hack sneezed on the spot and then sighed helplessly. That's true. Returning to reality, he thought inwardly with a sad expression, I feel both grateful and guilty toward the branch chief. Thinking this, Estio couldn't help but feel lucky but also relieved to have found another place to go. The gentle afternoon sunlight filtered through the window, casting a golden glow on Estio's hair. As he slowly opened his eyes, his gaze dazed. At Uhuru's unexpected words, I know, it said with a playful tone, I've figured out Estio's problem. Immediately after, Uhuru scolded Estio harshly about his refusal skills, saying he listens to others too much. And if you don't hate something, just say you do. Why can't you say that? Then Parker beside him noticed something odd and asked worriedly, Hun, is something wrong, Estio? Instantly, Estio turned around with a kind smile. Nothing's wrong. Uhuru yelled, How dare you say nothing, you jerk? It kept scolding. I had to lose sleep thinking to come to that conclusion. Uhuru was really mad. Estio muttered, Sorry. Uhuru then sternly reminded him, But keep order, okay? Still sulking, Uhuru finally sat down, pouting. Fine, okay. Meanwhile, Parker looked at Estio suspiciously, unconsciously asking, Did you just communicate with that tree? Estio calmly replied, Yes. Parker gasped with a shocked yet excited expression. Amazing. I heard Estio has mind-reading abilities. Can you read what I'm thinking right now? Faced with the sudden request, he silently cursed how annoying it was. Estio instinctively glanced at Nezu, who was lost in a dream. Suddenly, Nezu's face twisted with an incomprehensible groan. His face gradually changed color, his eyes clearly showing worry. At that moment, Parker suddenly jerked, whispering in panic, Awesome, so scary. They say the white-furred monkey is a monster, so if it ends up being eaten, what should we do? At the same time, Estio suddenly blurted out a strange phrase, It's real, I probably shouldn't have asked, huh? He calmly read the other's thoughts, wants to take off his pants. Parker shyly shouted, All right, I'm sorry. Seeing this, Estio awkwardly asked, So you're not curious anymore? He quickly replied, "That's enough, so don't read my mind anymore." Meanwhile, Nezu had already woken up, his eyes scanning forward. Then Estio gently comforted him. "Nezu, go back to sleep. Nezu, we still have a long way to go." He whispered softly, "What about Estio?" He bent down and whispered, "I also got some sleep." Seeing Estio's tired look, Nezu kindly offered, "You look exhausted. Lean on me and sleep. I'll be your pillow." Smiling softly, he whispered, "It's okay." Without another word, he quickly pulled Estio closer. Nezu's fur was very soft, so come on. His hair gently brushed against Nezu's smooth fur. Estio raised his head and softly mouthed a thank you. After a while, he suddenly remembered Parker and wanted to say something. "What about you, Parker?" Parker instinctively replied, "Well, looking at you all, it feels like a family." Uhuru hurriedly interrupted with a pout. "Am I part of it too?" After a moment, the sky suddenly poured down heavy rain. Inside, Parker gently asked Han, "It's night, aren't you cold? Want me to turn up the heat?" Estio shook his head lightly, still lying still. "No, I'm fine." Still uneasy, he suggested, "Should I get you another blanket? If you're hungry or uncomfortable, just say so." Estio softly responded, "This is comfortable enough." His eyes showed a hint of memory. "Much more comfortable than when I had to live in the shoe closet." Thinking of that, Estio suddenly felt a craving. "I miss those salty candies from the branch manager's office." Outside, rain fell like a gentle drizzle with a soothing patter. The cold water kept falling onto the carriage. Inside, Estio looked out at the rainy sky. Just then, Uhuru jumped up excitedly. "That's it! This weather calls for a ghost story." He spoke in a spooky voice. "Really scary ghost stories." Then Estio suddenly reached out and lightly touched Uhuru's spikes. "Humans are scarier than anything." At that moment, he looked up at Parker, who was dozing off, yawning repeatedly. Seeing this, Uhuru complained, "That guy's snoring so loud, fo." At the same time, Nezu's ears twitched as if sensing something unusual. He woke up suddenly, horror clear on his face. Seeing this, Estio gently cared for Nezu. "If it was that noise that woke you, you can go back to sleep now." Nezu suddenly looked off into the distance. Something was gathering around the carriage. Nezu suddenly felt uneasy. It wasn't human or animal. Pausing briefly, he lowered his voice. "I really have a bad feeling. And it's here to kill us." Just then, the coachman hurriedly threw open the door. "It's dangerous. We're completely surrounded by a group of monsters." Dr. Bakko slowly sat up. "How many enemies are surrounding us? Can we escape?" He looked slightly confused. Then the coachman loudly announced, "They're all happies with high combat strength." Hearing this, he looked panicked. Happy monsters only appear in winter, right? Then why is the coachman getting more and more anxious? "I don't know either," he stammered, face pale. "Even if we break through the encirclement, now it'll be hard to escape because they're faster than horses." Meanwhile, Nezu jumped down. He suggested, "Nezu will go check it out." Hearing this, Estio hurriedly reached out to stop him. Before he could intervene, Nezu had already jumped out. Nezu sped outside. Seeing the coachman's shocked face, he loudly reminded Estio, "Stay right there." Inside, Estio's arms still hovered in midair. At this moment, the sky began pouring rain, as if signaling bad omens in the dark, silent night. The carriage stopped in the dense forest. The coachman looked around anxiously. He looked confused. "But leaving allies like you to fight the happies alone is a bit..." Dr. Bakko panicked and stepped back, shaking his head repeatedly. "I'm just a delivery man. I can't fight." The suffocating atmosphere was gradually broken by Estio's voice. "I'll go help you." Suddenly, a worried voice blurted out, "But Estio, you're not the fighting type either." Estio turned his head and calmly replied in a steady tone, like cold wind rustling through the trees, "I have no intention of fighting them." Hearing this, Parker unconsciously shuddered. He froze, eyes wide open, staring at Estio. His gaze was different from before, cold as ice. At that moment, Parker suddenly woke up. If he doesn't intend to fight, does that mean he plans to use that white monkey as food for the happies? In the dim night, the sound of flapping wings echoed. Parker hurriedly rushed closer to Estio. Estio immediately spoke in a cautious voice. "Happies are vicious wild beasts that move in packs." Dr. Parker looked up at Estio. "They're not the enemy. You can't fight their destructive power alone. They are very different from the wandering kind like me." Standing before Estio's determined demeanor, Dr. Parker desperately pleaded, "Please listen to me." He whispered with clear fear, "It won't end by just taking down a few." At this moment, Parker showed a panicked expression. Before we get slaughtered, it's best to run. In that instant, a happy suddenly flew past his head. It seemed to be targeting Parker as it lunged forward. Faced with the sudden scene, he nearly froze in place. Parker stared wide-eyed at the happy hunting him. Blood splattered straight onto Parker. At that moment, he squinted and glanced outside. In front of Parker was Estio, who had rushed out to block the attack. Parker shouted in panic, "Estio!" At the same time, the happy still wouldn't let go and bit hard into his shoulder. On this side, Parker groaned softly, "I see the slaughter already." Immediately after, he panicked and yelled, "Your shoulder, its teeth." After a while, the happy stopped attacking. Estio's shoulder kept bleeding. Suddenly, it let out an extremely ear-piercing scream. Upstairs, the team immediately sensed the sound. They all looked down at the place where Estio and the happy were fighting. At that moment, the happy suddenly jumped back. Instantly, Nezu appeared, grabbing the happy's neck. Angry, he punched the happy's face without mercy. The happy's body slid along the grass. Nezu worriedly turned to Estio. "Estio, are you hurt?" He sincerely replied, "Just a little." His gaze darted quickly. "There's blood." The blood on Estio's shoulder was already dry. It was dark red. He glanced back. "Compared to my life, it's nothing." Parker showed a confused face. "Sorry, no thanks to you." At that moment, a swarm of happies rushed in like a storm. Seeing that, Parker screamed in fear. "There are more." The group all looked up with cautious expressions. Meanwhile, Estio calmly observed them. "I don't know if he will use it again against multiple targets or not." Right then, one of them aimed straight at him. When Estio's cold gaze swept across the happies, the atmosphere seemed to freeze. He loudly ordered them to stand still amid the chaos. The trees swayed continuously. Then suddenly everything fell into an unusual stillness. Before Estio, the happies stood motionless. He looked up at them internally, struggling fiercely. Should I kill them? After hesitating for a moment, Estio waved his hand, signaling, "Go back to where you came from." As soon as he finished, the happies turned and flew back one by one. Behind, Parker looked up, mouth agape in astonishment. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. A monster obeying a human's command. At the same time, Estio turned back and looked at Parker heading back to the carriage. Nezu excitedly responded, "Got it." He didn't forget to compliment a few words. Estio was still as cool as ever, turning back toward Parker. He hadn't yet composed himself. On the ground, the happy that was hit earlier still lay motionless in the quiet night. The scene gave off a chilling feeling. Now Parker looked on in horror as the happies suddenly disappeared immediately. He glanced at Estio in confusion. Is everything really over that easily? Now I understand why so many headquarters have been hunting him down. On this side, Estio carefully reminded, "Be careful, Nezu." He gently asked Han, "Are you hurt?" Parker was still standing motionless. He cast a cautious look at Estio, who seemed very dangerous. After a heavy rain, the night sky cleared up. The carriage carrying Estio continued moving forward. Estio lay inside the carriage completely asleep, unaware of anything. Suddenly a voice rang out, "You're really annoying." Hearing the strange voice, he slowly woke up after a short nap. But his eyes opened wide, trying to figure out who was talking to him. Suki quickly stepped onto him, constantly commenting, "Always acting on your own. That's why I hate humans." He was quite surprised the moment he saw it. Suki didn't even let him say a word. It continued urging, "Just sleep a little, don't run around like an idiot and get bitten by monsters again." Suki's gaze at him became deeply thoughtful in a strange way. Feeling somewhat guilty about what he had done, Estio immediately spoke sincerely. "Sorry, I didn't mean to blame you." This time it gently walked toward him and advised, "Don't apologize, just stay out of trouble, and you wouldn't need to apologize in the first place." Estio stared at Suki with sparkling eyes. He sat quietly on one side thinking, "Estio, don't get hurt again." After a long journey, the carriage finally arrived in a land covered in freezing snow. Ahuru quickly hopped around excitedly. What a wonderful morning. Seeing it act so strangely made Estio quite puzzled. "What are you doing?" Ahuru smiled and said hello. "Okay." While he was still confused, suddenly it grew its own legs beneath it. Seeing this scene shocked Estio so much he couldn't believe it. "You know how to walk?" This made Ahuru burst out laughing. It glanced at Estio. "Are you surprised that a walking cactus suddenly appeared and ran around you when you woke up?" Then its face grew very serious. "I'm shocked too." While they were still talking, Nezu quickly stepped forward. Nezu stared intently at Ahuru with sparkling eyes. "You know how to walk." Nezu's fingers quickly moved closer to tease it. "Congratulations." Hearing that, it laughed and nodded in agreement. Thanks. Hearing the different conversations woke Parker from his deep sleep. He was confused and didn't understand what was happening. The crazy thing before his eyes was Ahuru and Nezu still happily joking around. This made Parker find it very interesting. Your friends are really unusual. Although he had his own thoughts. What's so strange about a walking cactus? After all, it can chase away a whole group of happies with just one word. Now Parker unconsciously recalled Estio standing still watching the happies flying around in the air. He didn't know why Estio asked them to return to their nest. Thinking about this, Parker was a bit speechless as he looked at injured Estio, sitting quietly. If it's Estio making friends with dragons, wouldn't surprise me at all. He quickly stretched and pondered his unique power of heart domination and ruling others. Suddenly, a voice rang out, very frightening. Seeing Estio confused made Parker feel uneasy. Estio repeated his compliment. "Those are your wings." Hearing that, Parker suddenly understood something. He smiled shyly and scratched his head, saying thanks. The carriage carrying the two continued moving forward through the cold land. While preparing breakfast, Estio looked thoughtful. Suddenly remembering he saw Uhuru always running around playfully after growing legs. Estio felt curious and asked Uhuru, "Do you need water?" Uhuru didn't think much and immediately refused the request, saying, No, I'm full." Then Estio looked around the carriage and was surprised to ask, "You already ate?" Hearing that, he shook his head and was about to explain many other things, not just simply that Estio was injured yesterday. Estio nodded silently, listening carefully to the story. Uhuru reminded him, "Didn't you bleed a lot?" He remembered the wound on his shoulder and nodded in agreement. That's right. The bright red blood from his body kept dripping down slowly. So many drops of blood appeared that they started falling onto the ground below. Unfortunately, Estio's blood drops fell straight onto Uhuru, who was unknowingly sitting nearby. At the end of the story, Uhuru pointed to his head and explained more clearly, "I drank a bit of your blood." After hearing this, Estio fell silent in thought. Seeing his strange expression made Uhuru confused. After thinking for a short while, he slowly lifted Uhuru closer to examine. His face became utterly bewildered, unable to believe it. "You drank my blood." Uhuru nodded very confidently. This conversation made everyone inside the carriage fall into an awkward silence. Seeing everyone thinking in a different way, Uhuru hurriedly shouted to explain, "Don't misunderstand, Grandma. At that time, I couldn't even move. Besides, I didn't do it on purpose. The blood just accidentally fell on me." Then he continued telling, "When a flower bloomed on my head, that was the first time I blossomed too." After listening, everyone silently realized something. This time he gently held Uhuru in his hand, unable to hide his surprise. "Interesting. You blossomed after drinking my blood." Hearing him say such strange things, Uhuru kept reminding, wait. You should focus on the detail that a normal tree drinks my blood and then learns to walk." Parker, standing aside, was left speechless after hearing this story. After a while, Uhuru quickly handed the bright red flower back to Estio. "This is a gift. Please accept my sincerity." He gently took the flower she gave him. "Thank you." This made Uhuru very excited. Uhuru was about to say something else when suddenly a golden light appeared. "I'm the one who should be thankful." Uhuru's flower glowed strangely, making everyone find it hard to believe. A second later, the flower withered automatically and slowly floated away. The remaining essence quickly merged into Estio's wrist. Seeing this, Estio was a bit speechless, unsure what to say. The flower melted away. Uhuru also became extremely disappointed. "My fruit." But the next moment he realized something was wrong. He hurriedly shouted Estio's name. "Estio!" Uhuru anxiously announced, "There's a light on your shoulder." Estio looked at him in confusion, wondering what was happening. Estio gradually felt the change coming from the wound on his shoulder. Feeling something unbelievable, he was confused. "Let me check my wound now." Realizing the wound had no sensation as he thought, Estio quickly removed the bandage to inspect it closely. He saw that the wound from yesterday had completely healed. Estio said in surprise, "This flower seems to have healing powers." This also made Uhuru very delighted. "Isn't that wonderful?" Remembering something important, Estio called out, "Hey, Neju." Hearing this, Nezu was startled and reacted. He quickly recalled last night. "Suki came to visit us last night, right?" After thinking for a short while, Nezu looked thoughtful and replied, "You're half right, half wrong." Actually, Nezu already knew. Suki has been on the carriage with us since last night. As Estio stood up and put on his clothes, he was surprised and thought, so it wasn't a dream. He grabbed the carriage door, ready to rush out. Seeing him suddenly circle outside to check the situation made everyone inside the carriage extremely worried. Estio was so fearless that even Parker hurriedly ran after him, saying, "Doing that on a moving carriage is really dangerous." But Estio barely paid attention to these warnings. He quickly looked up at the roof of the carriage. "Suki, I know you're up there. Then Estio tried to wait and see if Suki would appear before him. Fortunately, Suki appeared right in front of him the next moment. It quickly gave a few signals. "I see it's safe." Only then did he let out a relieved breath while pushing gently on the roof. "That was dangerous. Get inside." Hearing this instruction from him, Suki looked strangely unbelievable, but still obeyed Estio, slowly moving toward the door of the carriage. It seemed like he was in even more danger than I am. With his help, Suki finally jumped safely inside the carriage. Seeing it got inside safely, he sighed with relief. Then Estio quickly closed the door and sat right beside Suki. This surprised Parker. "A cat?" Parker had no idea that the tiny cat in front of him was actually a giant monster cat that Estio raised. Hearing such an innocent question, Estio shook his head and denied no. "Suki isn't a pet cat." Suki quickly yawned sleepy. This made Parker curious and about to say something. Really? But it was as if Estio read his thoughts. "It's not a stray cat either." Hearing this, he breathed a sigh of relief, as if he roughly understood the story behind it. Seeing Parker's puzzled look made Suki even more confused. "Who's that idiot?" Estio quickly explained to him, "This is Parker." But maybe Suki didn't care much. This time it gently sat on Estio's lap and quietly asked, "You're injured, are you okay?" Seeing it care for him like this, Estio smiled gently and explained, "Uhuru helped treat me." This made Suki extremely contemptuous. "What can that tiny cactus do?" Uhuru immediately felt a little offended by this disdainful remark. Understanding Uhuru's mood, Estio gently explained, "It has healing powers, Suki. If you're going to follow me anyway." Suki lay silently there. It stubbornly said, "In my opinion, I'm not following you. I just happened to see you injured while exploring." Seeing it still wouldn't speak, Estio grew a bit impatient. "Why don't you come with me from now on?" Suki remained silent, but its tail quickly swished straight out. Time rewound to when Estio first picked up Suki. He was extremely happy, and it seemed like Suki cherished every moment. The scene switched back to the carriage traveling down a long road. Suki's voice echoed from inside. "Let me be clear, I'm only coming with you because you told me to." "Always somehow injured when I'm not around, Estio." Hearing that the others gently nodded in understanding, "Thanks, Suki," he gently stroked its shoulder and head, making it sense something different. But Suki didn't think much and silently closed its eyes. "Estio has changed. I don't care how he's changed, but this kind of change is okay." Time passed quickly. Finally, the carriage stopped along the way. While Estio was still thinking about what to do next, a voice rang out. Estio pointed to the large gate ahead and announced that we had arrived at the teleportation gate connected to headquarters. Yes, shortly after Estio led Suki and friends to tour the entire place. Meanwhile, Parker quickly reported information to customs officers. "Parker and Estio are from the Ignis Guild. Just charge the guild fees." Hearing this, the officer nodded understandingly. "Yes, confirmed." For security reasons, the gate can only be used 3 times a day per adult. He didn't forget to add a warning. You might experience some side effects after using the gate. If you accept these conditions, we will open the way for you. If you accept these conditions, we will open the entrance for you. Estio stood silently on one side, thoughtfully observing the place more closely. After confirming the documents were completely finished, Estio didn't hesitate and stepped forward. Just like that, carrying his expectations, he slowly entered through the shifting door. A blinding light made Estio instinctively shut his eyes tight. As he gradually got used to the light, he slowly opened his eyes and looked ahead. A magnificent, dazzling place quickly appeared before Estio's eyes, leaving him somewhat stunned. At the same time, Parker and the others also quickly arrived here. Looking at this palace-like splendor, Estio seemed to be amazed and said, "This is the main headquarters of the guild." While he was still hesitating and thinking, Parker's cheerful voice suddenly rang out, "Welcome, Estio." He smiled and introduced, "This is the main headquarters of the Ignis Guild." Then Estio nodded in understanding, silently gazing at the huge headquarters with its vast details. The two walked down the long hallway and continued up to a higher floor. It was the first time Estio had been to a place like this, and he felt a bit surprised. An endless spiral staircase felt like going up to heaven. Walking in front, Parker remained silent and thoughtful. It seemed like Estio was still continuously lost in his own thoughts. Does heaven really exist up there in the sky? He quickly thought about the terrifying people who possess both power and wealth, those with authority and riches. Of course, there were always those who stood behind, flattering these people and supporting them. Thinking of this, Estio wondered if things would get better the higher he went. Realizing his question was silly, he sighed and shook his head to dismiss the thought. While he was still deep in thought, Parker turned around and smiled, announcing, "We've arrived." This surprised him a bit. That was fast. Parker's face showed some awkwardness as he explained, all of this is a magical staircase quite similar to a teleport gate. Anyway, you were supposed to meet the guildmaster, but he's been absent for nearly 3 months now. Parker didn't forget to add, so naturally you'll have to meet the vice guildmaster instead. Before them stood a large door to a spacious room. Parker and Estio quickly stepped up to this large door, unable to hesitate any longer. Parker quickly reached out and knocked on the doorbell to see if there was any response. A short time passed, the two stood there waiting, but nothing unusual seemed to happen. Everything fell silent again, making both of them a bit awkward. The doctor sighed helplessly, unsure how to explain this situation. It seemed like the vice guild master had gone back to sleep. Upon hearing this, Estio and Nezu immediately became confused. Having no other choice, Parker just kept pressing the doorbell quickly and repeatedly. After a series of continuous ringing, the large door finally swung open. Estio quickly grabbed Uhuru to avoid the large door. The rough action just now also left Parker stunned, not knowing what to do. Remembering he almost lost his life made Uhuru so angry she trembled. She was still furious, continuously yelling and cursing. My head almost flew off. How dare you? Estio silently thought, where is the cactus head? The person inside the room holding a sword quickly appeared, still sleepy, hastily stepping out. Who's there? He looked tired as he stared at those who disturbed his deep sleep. Looking at Parker standing right in front of him made Gwen very confused. I don't recall ordering any chicken. Hearing this, Estio angrily replied, I've told you again and again, Vice Guild Master, I'm not food. Hearing their argument, Uhuru sighed and quickly agreed, so he was right about the chicken. Remembering something important, Parker immediately got straight to the point. I did bring a guest here. This made Gwen confused, not understanding what was going on. A guest? What guest? Estio continued with these confusing words, your guest. These series of actions made Gwen angry. He yawned repeatedly and was about to return to sleep again. What nonsense are you talking about? Why should I entertain guests? Is there no one working downstairs? I'll deduct your salary for waking someone up during their good morning sleep. Seeing him act so strangely also made Parker feel extremely uncomfortable. Gwen quickly turned and walked into the room. Go back, Suki suddenly shouted upon hearing the little cat's voice. Gwen was stunned and bewildered to the point of disbelief. A cat in front of him, Suki kept sitting there, meowing, clearly very interested. He laughed and sat down to examine. You're so cute. Are you also a guest? But while Gwen was reaching out to pet Suki, it suddenly turned and walked away. It went straight towards Stio's feet. Seizing the opportunity, Parker immediately went straight to the main point. He is the one replacing the special support position of the Galaxia branch. Still, you hold the Uhuru cactus in your hand. Standing next to Nezu, he saw Wen appear. Immediately stood up and spoke very confusing words. A guest, huh? His face lit up with laughter, feeling very interested in these matters. Did you bring our leader here? No more rudeness? He quickly reached out to Stio to greet. I am the vice president of the Ignis Winleski Society. As the two shook hands, he continued commenting, so I finally get to meet the leader from the rumors, huh? Hearing Wen's confusing words also made Stio curious. Leader, while he was still pondering, Wen quickly urged everyone, come on in. And so he slowly stepped inside the room. Thanks, but unlike the elegance outside the palace, Wen's room had become very messy with various things scattered around. This scene left Stio speechless. It was the first time he had seen such a dirty bedroom. Is this a pigsty? But such a messy room also made Nezu feel awkward, not knowing what to do. If Nezu had to enter here, he would step on those things to get through. Understanding everyone's mood, Wen immediately stepped further inside. It's okay, it's okay. He smiled as he stepped on piles of documents and told everyone, I don't care what you step on. But this time he glanced at Nezu because he found it extremely interesting. That white monkey friend can speak so fluently, huh? Speak to people. Nezu was very surprised at this guess. How do you know? Hearing this, he laughed. Just a guess. After saying that, Wen quickly approached Nezu and joked, just kidding, if I were an animal. But his words were somewhat confusing. I wouldn't want to talk to humans about how I can speak. Seeing him act so strangely, Stio was surprised, thinking his outside and inside are so different. While he was still thinking, Wen quickly glanced at him. Do you want some coffee? Stio shook his head to refuse no thanks. Seeing he didn't seem to want coffee, his face became thoughtful. Sorry, you probably aren't old enough to appreciate the bitterness yet. Coca-Cola might be better. Turning away to prepare the drinks. Stio, standing behind, didn't know what to say. I didn't refuse because it was bitter. A moment later, Gwen had finished preparing a tray of drinks. He even had biscuits ready, placed right in front of Estio. Holding the hot coffee cup, Estio's face showed some thoughtful silence. While he was still lost in deep thought, Gwen quickly commented, looks like our new leader is quite young. Hearing that, he immediately raised his head to explain, I've already had my coming-of-age ceremony. Seeing him look so foolish, he laughed heartily. That's why I said you're still young. When adults are called young, they don't refuse but say thank you. Remembering something important, Parker quickly called out to the vice president. This made him drink coffee while surprised looking at him, but his face had become very annoyed by Wen's series of actions. He sounds like some pervert who likes teasing kids, so whatever. Seeing it was taking too long for these matters, he burst out laughing and got to the main topic. Let's talk about the main issue. This is the chairman's idea when he called the leaders from the headquarters here. Hearing this, Sesko showed a clear look of confusion, I see. But why me? Yes, before you could finish your sentence, Gwen immediately guessed your intention. Leader, he nodded to confirm confidently. Gwen laughed loudly as if nothing had happened, then calmly added a few words saying that was also the chairman's idea. I'm just the messenger. At first, the title of leader was just a new label added, so I'm not exactly sure what it specifically means. This series of information left Estio and Parker standing silently, not knowing how to respond. Estio felt a bit worried inside, looking at the coffee cup in his hand. Is the guild a trustworthy place? Even though he didn't want to think about it, he felt quite uncertain. They had a very secretive position and attitude, and their stance changed frequently. However, Estio's gaze gradually became judgmental as he looked toward Wen sitting opposite him. His face slowly grew more thoughtful in a strange way. At least there hadn't been any lies so far. But as he was still pondering, Gwen continued speaking, saying from now on, he would receive very different tasks than before. Clearly, Estio still didn't understand the deep intentions behind that statement. Different how he acted as if nothing had happened and kept looking at the coffee cup in his hand. They will be special tasks that only a leader is capable of handling. Suddenly, Wen's lips curved into an extremely smug smile. Inside the large headquarters, Wen's voice echoed, these will be special tasks that only a leader has the capability to carry out. Before hearing the rest of the information, Estio was deep in thought, reflecting on the meaning of leader. Suddenly, something was thrown straight ahead, catching Estio's attention. In front of him was now a large, strange sack. Wen quickly spoke up to announce its receipt. You still don't understand what this is? He smiled and explained, this is your promotion gift. On the paper was clearly written the words Ex-Nis Guild Leader. His voice continued, it includes the new uniform and badge of the guild, along with other support equipment and guild coins. Parker looked a bit puzzled seeing Estio's reward in front of him, but was somewhat curious. Wen then glanced to one side and finally Nezu seemed very delighted by all these recent actions. He laughed and hurriedly recounted what he was thinking. This is just my personal curiosity. It has nothing to do with the guild leader. But while Estio was still unsure of what he meant, he continued talking. What kind of power does the new leader have that makes the chairman want you to come with us so much? I was wondering about that while waiting for you. Now Gwen smiled eagerly at Estio's reaction and said, so can you show me before you leave, little leader Estio? Hearing that, Estio just silently stared in surprise at all these confusing words from him. Before he could understand what was happening, Gwen immediately grabbed a sword from the side. Now show me how strong you are. A long time passed, and Gwen was seen sitting right beside the sword inside his room. Suddenly, he broke into a big, very satisfied smile. The coffee cup and cookies on the table remained untouched, as if nothing had happened. Only Estio's coffee cup had fallen to the floor, spilling its contents all over the floor. But it seemed Gwen was somewhat thoughtful looking at the remaining coffee cup on the table. Fighting. How can you fight something like that? Don't make me laugh. Flashback to earlier when Gwen was very excited, gripping the sword tightly to see how this kid would seize the chance. He immediately charged straight at Estio with the sword. How strong is he, Estio? Just sat there without any reaction to this strange action. Seeing that he showed no sign of dodging, Gwen felt somewhat confused. Why doesn't he defend himself? While Gwen was still rushing to attack, something flashed by, making him freeze instantly. His face truly showed he didn't understand what had happened. He continued to look at Estio, who was still leisurely holding a cup of coffee, not having made a move yet. And when he looked back at himself once more, it turned out Gwen had used her own sword to cut his neck. Although he tried to resist, it seemed all was in vain. It wouldn't move. While he was still struggling to control everything, Estio looked up at him and said, what you want to see is the hypnotic look in his eyes, looking at him with such strange eyes. Enough already. All those actions made Gwen personally drop her sword and return to reality. Gwen recalled her embarrassing moments back then. He sighed, resting his feet on the table, ready to continue his work. Mom is tired now. Looking at the stacks of documents still piled continuously on the desk, Gwen sighed with some fatigue. Leader, shouldn't you have explained more clearly? Chairman? He had become very thoughtful witnessing all those actions of Estio at the time. This looks more like a ruler. So how could he control a predator stronger than himself? Thinking of this made Gwen sigh with relief. Not being devoured is good enough. He recalled Estio's cold face at that time. He kept thinking about all the interesting things that would happen, making Gwen smile with excitement. Now finally he was probably waiting to see what would happen next. A new era had begun. The scene shifted to the vast hallway beneath the main headquarters. A voice echoed, "Wonderful!" This time, a plant pot filled with nutrient-rich soil quickly appeared before Ahuru's eyes. "No need to prepare this big soil pot." Estio asked in surprise, "Do you like it?" Ahuru quickly nodded in agreement. Yes, I like it very much." Seeing him so pleased with the new home made him happy too. "That's great, Ahuru." After finishing household chores for Ahuru, Estio continued to look around his office. This place was very spacious with expensive items displayed inside. It even had living quarters for Nezu and Suki to make the room less empty. The room was even decorated by servants with paintings of famous landmarks around the world. Looking at the large room right before Estio's eyes, he became very puzzled. Why would they need to do so much? Suddenly, Nezu's cheerful voice rang out. Estio looked over. Nezu was very excited, pulling out some outfits in front of him and announcing new clothes. Even the luxurious clothes were carefully packed neatly inside a suitcase. Hearing that, he nodded understandingly about the clothes. Nezu became very enthusiastic about these things. It's not just clothes. He quickly grabbed a paper in his hand and read out the items prepared for him. Magic was also included there. Awesome, no need to say more. His face became more excited than ever. They have self-cleaning ability, like temperature control and shock absorption. While Nezu was still excited about the future, Estio on the side was deep in thought. Would Nezu want to wear clothes? Remembering something important, he suddenly called out, "Wait, Nezu!" Nezu looked back confused. Estio quickly stepped forward to share his thoughts with him. "I'll see if I can buy clothes that Nezu and Suki can actually wear." This made him very puzzled. Nezu doesn't need clothes. Even Suki immediately stepped forward to share her thoughts. "I find it troublesome and annoying, so don't pay attention." Estio sighed gently, sat down and looked at him with worried eyes. "What if you get cold, without clothes to keep warm, or feel awkward being naked like this?" Hearing that he was speechless, not knowing what to say. "You're driving me crazy." Suki quickly used her small, fragile skin that he caressed. "Animals don't wear clothes, we have fur already." Even Nezu on the side examined all the new clothes prepared for Estio and added, "I heard people usually wear nice clothes to be treated well. They call that social status." He was very confused, clearly not understanding what Nezu was talking about. Social status. In the quiet room, recalling Nezu's words of advice, Estio's face became very puzzled. "If I have better status, will it be okay?" Hearing him say that, Nezu smiled and explained everything carefully. "More people will like you." This also confused him a lot. Just because some people have high social status, does that mean more people will like them? Why is that people don't like kings? Nezu was about to explain more. At least he looked at Estio with brightened eyes and continued, "They won't attack you on their own." After speaking, its face became very serious and declared, "Nezu will do his best to protect Estio, but it will be very troublesome if someone stronger than Nezu attacks you." Suddenly, Nezu recalled the scene when he was powerless to save the person he wanted. Mother saw the sadness on Nezu's face. Estio seemed to have realized something more. He gently extended his hands toward it, as if in empathy. Seeing Estio act so strangely made Nezu very confused. To Nezu's surprise, Estio immediately took off the chain from his neck. He didn't forget to remind, "I will take this off when no one is around." Being chained like that must be uncomfortable. After feeling the chain removed from his neck, Nezu finally felt a long-lost comfort. "I'm fine, and this way I won't be hindered when walking." Estio seriously looked at him and sighed in response. "I feel uncomfortable seeing you like that too." Hearing that, it nodded in understanding. "All right then." Meanwhile, Suki quickly jumped down from Estio's shoulder to the ground. But the only thing he cared about now was Nezu. His face lit up happily as he looked at it. "Thank you for the new clothes and for being happy for me." After speaking, Estio didn't forget to confirm once again, "And also you don't need to worry anymore." Seeing how considerate he was made Nezu bewildered and at a loss for words. Estio had his own thoughts because now if I want I can make anyone kneel before me. This time he announced to everyone around because he felt the change coming from his body. Moreover, my power is getting stronger every day. Estio even wondered to himself, why should I worry? Many confrontations have made things easier for me. Even when facing the Happy Birds, Estio didn't become scared at all. Think about it, isn't that very convenient? Thinking this, he clenched his fists. Though I really don't want to say this, I still silently admit, maybe humanity is more selfish than myself. The scene switches to a tavern next door in the town. A cheerful voice rang out. Here's the request, sir. Quickly pulling out a carefully kept letter and presenting it to Estio. He was tasting the flavor of a new dish. Seeing the letter Parker gave caused some surprise in him. Out of politeness, he immediately accepted the letter, thank you, Parker. But since Parker was standing close and some chicken feathers fell into the soup, Parker became very excited, laughing loudly and scratching his head as he explained, well, this is my pay job after all. Have you gotten used to the headquarters yet? Looking at the letter in his hand, Estio seemed thoughtful, then nodded in understanding it's quite comfortable. I was a bit bored because there was nothing to do, but now with this request, I feel more relieved. Not seeing him so thoughtful made Parker even more amused, his eyes lighting up. You're really meticulous, Estio. No, I should call you the leader. Estio calmly asked back, do you want to eat with me? Hearing that he was so happy, he said a few words, sure, I'll go get my portion right now. After Estio opened the letter, he slowly drifted into his own thoughts. Whether they call me leader or commander, I still don't know what I should do first. Right before his eyes was the letter containing the brief words from the requester. The requester was Mobian R2GA, the reward. This familiar name also surprised Estio R2GA. He quickly recalled this name, R2GA. While he was still pondering, Ahuru quickly approached and announced, and I know that place. He became very serious, recounting everything he had known about this place. It is one of the new noble duchy families in the country. The head of the Mobian family is the cousin of the current emperor and can use his body very flexibly. Upon hearing this, Estio understood something more. Have you met him? Ahuru nodded proudly in agreement. Yes, I have wide connections. Hearing their conversation, Nezu became very confused. What did he say? You gently turn your head to explain to Nezu more clearly. Ahuru said he has met the person requesting our order before. After understanding the whole story, Nezu became very interested and continued to praise Ahuru. Knows everything, that's great. You really are an amazing cactus. Constantly hearing compliments made Ahuru blush a little shy. Thanks, you're pretty cool too. Suki on the side was still sound asleep, unaware of anything. After thinking for a short time, Ahuru continued to tell everyone, the Mobian I know is a bit crazy. In his mind, he imagined a mysterious person needing a sword in my hand. He didn't know much more, but his swordsmanship was quite good. This information also made Estio listen with surprise that strong. He shook his head to deny all of this. His face became very serious as he recounted everything. Not just strong. Before becoming the head of the clan, there was another person famous for swordsmanship, but rumors say he defeated that person with a single strike. This man even possessed such great power that no matter who challenged him, he would win against monsters. He won every battle. After hearing this, Estio felt very confused. So someone that strong also takes on requests. You were still pondering when Parker quickly grabbed his meal excitedly and came over to announce, let's eat this meal. He placed the meal down under the table. His face became very enthusiastic. Estio nodded gently. Parker hoped you would enjoy the meal. Looking at Estio's soup made Ahuru very uneasy. There's hair in the soup. But just as Ahura was about to say more, Estio gently turned and patted his head. At the dining table, Estio seriously read the letter in his hand. The letter clearly described different parts that caught his attention. After reading each letter carefully and understanding the issues, he was surprised to realize an important fact, just as he thought there was nothing specific at all. Looking at Parker still focused on eating, he quickly asked if he was done. Parker nodded in confirmation. Then, seeing the opportunity, Estio quickly grabbed his food and stood up. Let's go then. Parker was a bit thoughtful about this action. His face looked somewhat strange and a little confused. He took his meal and followed behind Estio. Parker wanted to say something more to him. So you're the commander of your house? Then he glanced back, surprised. Parker continued, I noticed it before too, but you're quite unique, huh? He still didn't understand what Parker meant. What do you mean? Parker stammered after hearing this. No, that's not it. At that moment, Estio was confused by his friend's sudden strange reaction. Estio had imagined scenes where people kept chasing him away, yelling, You damn monster, get out of my sight! Just thinking about those bad past memories made Estio tired and unwilling to face them. Speaking of which, he continued walking forward thoughtfully speechless. It's been a long time since I ate with someone. Quickly, the scene shifted back to the large corridor at the headquarters here. Estio's steps slowly moved forward, preparing for the current mission. While he was still thinking, Parker immediately ran after him from behind. Seeing Parker suddenly running after him made Estio a little confused, and he stopped. This time he turned around to look back. Both were dumbfounded and froze as they looked at each other, seemingly understanding Parker's intention to tail him, which surprised Estio so much he interrupted and asked, "Do you still have work at headquarters?" "Yes," Parker seriously explained as if nothing happened. "It's been a long time since I had any work. The request I gave you was the last one." This made him want to congratulate him. "So you're off work. Congratulations." But Parker's words were very confusing. "I'm still working." The two of them just stood there continuously staring at each other. What? Noticing Estio was still confused, Parker became even more puzzled. "You don't know." Of course he still didn't care what was going on. Know what? Parker quickly placed his hand on his chest, smiled, and introduced himself. "I'm Bernie Parker, and I've been transferred to the command team." Estio was probably stunned right there, not understanding what was happening. "Team, contrary to your attitude," Parker became very cheerful and nodded to confirm. "Yes, starting today, I've been transferred to support Commander Q, and he even gestured towards Skio. So consider me a soldier directly under your command now. Please take care of me, Commander." After hearing all this, you were stunned and didn't know what to say. Same here, but out of basic courtesy, you quickly shook hands with Parker. "Suddenly, I have a teammate and a soldier under my command. Why did I drift into thought when I saw the badge worn on the commander's chest?" Seeing you look so stunned made Parker a bit awkward. "Commander, are you okay? Maybe you're a bit too nostalgic. There isn't much time left." Stio immediately announced, "First you turned toward your room and told us to pack our luggage." These words also made Parker feel very confused. Where are we going?" Just like that, Estio quickly walked away, not forgetting to announce the upcoming mission. "I plan to go outside to our client, who bought the Vega sign." Very quickly, Estio and his teammates reached the teleportation door in the space. While he and the others were still waiting, Parker quickly approached and said, "Exactly, I think you're carrying a lot of different stuff on your back, and you even didn't forget to chat. Don't you need camping gear?" Parker's series of actions left Estio speechless and confused, looking at Parker and advising, "Parker, we're not going camping." But it seemed Parker didn't care much about that. "I also brought snacks." To the surprise of Estio and the teammates, Parker quickly showed some very strange cookies, salted crab, and grilled octopus cookies. Seeing that they smelled bad, Estio didn't dare eat them, but Parker became very excited. "This is a limited edition, so I spent my entire salary to buy it. Since you're the commander, I'll specially share them with you." Just seeing those scary cookies made Estio immediately refuse. "No, I'm fine." This reaction made Parker very sad. Everyone was still chatting when suddenly an employee pointed to the teleportation gate behind and announced, "Sorry, the territory of the 2GAs is outside our departure route, so instead we will take you to the Reno's underground cave. This place also cuts the travel distance in half." This surprised Parker so much that he was stunned. The underground cave. The employee ignored Parker and quickly operated the teleportation gate. "I will activate the gate now. Wishing you a safe journey." Stowe and his teammates slowly stepped through the space gate, each step firm, as they moved toward their destination. But on this side, Parker was very hesitant, unsure if he should enter or not. Underground, realizing everyone else had already crossed with no other choice, he ran after them, calling out, "Please wait for me." As he stepped into this other world, everything plunged into darkness and nothing could be seen. Parker's footsteps moved slowly forward, and he and Stio looked around the vast cave space. Here, just seeing this dark space made Parker so scared he was speechless. His whole body trembled, as if he didn't want to face this mission. While Parker was still frightened, a man suddenly appeared behind him and startled him. "Hello, Parker." Scared and trembling, screaming in despair. Unfortunately, he jumped up and hit his head, painfully falling down. Looking at the clown Parker lying still on the ground, everyone was at a loss for words, feeling a bit worried. Esteo asked, "Are you okay?" Hearing that, Parker sighed and replied, "I'll catch up with you guys later." Right after he sat up, the manager smiled and praised, "You're quite an energetic dove." This made Parker more alert. "Who are you?" The man was a bit surprised by the question this time. "Who am I?" The old man smiled and announced to everyone present, "I am the manager of this teleportation gate, kid, who can fly over there." After confirming the manager's identity, Steo quickly got to the point. Excuse me, manager, are we at the Reno's underground cave? The manager turned his attention to Stio, laughing in surprise and praising the kid. So polite. As he walked forward, the manager continued talking. It's been a long time since anyone visited this cave. When the little bats hear strange noises, they fly out continuously. But why would a young person like you come here? Then Stio recounted the mission he had received. We're on our way to Haiga's territory. Hearing the familiar name startled the manager Haiga. Suddenly his gaze became strangely terrifying. Not many explorers dared to go to that death zone. Hearing this, Estio couldn't hide his suspicion. Why is Haiga's territory called the death zone? After a brief moment of thought, the manager slowly recounted everything. Why the emperor doesn't dare keep talented relatives close because he's an all-around skilled, strong young man who's also very handsome. At this he laughed with great amusement. Just that alone shows how many hardships the emperor has to be wary of. After telling a few stories briefly, the manager pointed ahead. Do you see the path through that dark cave? He seriously explained. Although it's the only gate connecting to the two GA's territory, no one knows what's inside. Hearing this, the old man suddenly startled and showed some worry. No one knows. So what? He burst out laughing loudly, extremely pleased. It means I can let you go, but I can't guarantee your lives will be safe. Even if you get torn into 100 pieces, no one will know. This also made Parker standing nearby become fearful. Are there monsters in there? But your attitude only excites the manager more. You're stating the obvious. At the same time, the image of eyes lurking in the darkness quickly appeared through the manager's story. The domain ruled by the Duke is full of deadly fang monsters. He was very excited in his somewhat threatening words. It means that coward is afraid of his own kin. After saying this, the manager laughed loudly again, while Parker nervously hid behind Stio. But clearly, Stio had no time to pay much attention to these matters, so he quickly looked around the space, here feeling a bit confused, then continued to stare at the manager right in front of him. Seeing Stio's attitude, the manager felt impressed. Look, this kid isn't afraid or distracted at all. Stio's eyes widened as if judging whether this manager was evil or not after a short period of observation. He slowly stepped right in front of him. This time, the managers pointed directly at Stio and spoke his warning. You should be a little more careful, that would be better. Although his words were somewhat confusing, he patiently added more. Try not to let that cowardly king notice you. Even looking into the manager's eyes made Parker on the side feel scared. If you don't want to be swallowed up before even shedding your disguise. As soon as he finished the necessary warnings, Stio continued to speak up. Please send this message to the Duke for me. He turned his head, preparing to go to the pitch-black tunnel right in front of him. I'm very willing to accept his invitation. This time Stio stepped forward. His words carried the same mysterious tone as the manager's. And when that time comes, he can talk to me freely without having to hide like this. Just like that, he left with the manager watching. Inside the pitch-black tunnel, only the manager was left standing there, lost in thought. Remembering all that Stio said earlier made the manager burst out laughing joyfully. He slowly lifted his hand to pull down his facial skin. Speak freely without having to hide, huh? Just like that, the manager's facial skin disappeared, revealing a youthful face. He smiled happily, truly interesting. Chapter 36, inside this pitch-black tunnel. Luckily, there were some faint lights filtering through here. Sao and his teammates stepped in slowly. Parker kept looking from one side to the other. His body trembled uncontrollably, feeling a bit strange. He suddenly turned around startled and saw Estio and the team staring at him. Understanding Parker's mood, Estio sighed and said, I didn't know you were afraid of underground. Sorry, this also made Parker very confused, not knowing what to do next or how to realize something was wrong. His face turned surprised. Did you just read my mind? Stio continued adding, I'm sorry if I was rude to you. Just a few simple conversations already made Parker noticeably more cheerful. It's okay, you can read as much as you want. After all, you're the commander. He smiled awkwardly, scratching his head to explain. Instead of saying scared, it's more accurate to say this is a trait of my race. Stio listened and then curiously asked, a trait of your race? Parker gradually explained, because avian are creatures that usually live on high mountains and hills. We feel uncomfortable being in such a confined area. After saying that, he scratched his head, a bit embarrassed. It's also hard to fly here because it's too narrow. Stio was surprised, really. After carefully observing the space here, Stio quickly turned to inform Parker, because this cave connects directly to the territories of the two GAs. We'll arrive in half a day if we don't stop. He didn't forget to share his thoughts for everyone to hear because the teleport gate has limited uses. We have to wait a whole day before using it again, so I thought going through the cave would be faster. This idea even made Parker admire it for being incredibly clever. This method is actually more effective. No STO takes all the blame himself. It's also because I shifted without thinking about the whole team. You hastily shook your head to refuse no. Parker's face looked somewhat uneasy. You quickly waved your hand to explain, don't think like that. Don't worry about making mistakes or anything like that. You just need to give orders. Hearing this, STO suddenly repeated the two words, give orders. You quickly voiced your guess, so you mean you accept to follow all my commands without caring about your own wishes. This also made Parker confused, but actually STO already has his own thoughts. In the end, it's no different from dominating their mind and controlling them. While you were still lost in your own thoughts, Parker continued speaking. It's not that I don't consider my own wishes. I'm here because I want to follow you. Hearing this made STO somewhat puzzled. You want to follow me? Parker suddenly remembered that STO had saved him just in time when in danger. Yes, you are my superior, but you are also the one who saved my life. Hearing you say that STO didn't pay much attention and turned away, it's because I was in danger too at that time. Whether by accident or on purpose, it seems Parker still greatly values those things. Even so, without you, I would have died. I'm truly very grateful. You didn't forget to add a few more words, and I have a hunch that I should follow. Suddenly, Nezu sensed something wrong ahead that surprised everyone. Seeing Nezu act so strangely and fearfully also made Parker panic. Why is he like that? STO gently called Nezu. Strange noises quickly echoed from the dark cave ahead. This made STO raise his alertness. Is it monsters? Nezu silently nodded to confirm this. There are too many. Seeing these two so serious made Parker on the side even more worried. Nezu continued to share his feelings, very many. They're also fast. Thinking about this made you despair to the point of being speechless. So how close are they to us now? Their voices are right below us now. As soon as Nezu finished speaking, strange cracks quickly appeared in the ground below. It seems like from beneath the ground, some creatures are trying to emerge here. Strange golden bodies quickly sprouted from the ground. Needless to say, Parker was so scared at this point that he screamed and cried. A bunch of golden worms with black heads quickly appeared here, making you even more desperate. The sandworm looked at these suddenly appearing worms in front of him with some confusion. Giant worms. Ahuru on the side was surprised sandworms. It's the first time I see them. Nezu was still growling, staying alert. Luckily, Ahuru was right beside everyone, quickly comforting them. It's okay. They're not aggressive. Their nature is very gentle, so as long as you don't touch them, they won't get angry. After saying this, he didn't forget to point towards the sandworms and announce, look, they're just observing us. It seemed true as the sandworms just stood there quietly probing the situation ahead. Ahura became very certain as he declared, more importantly, they have no reason to attack us. They don't eat people or plants. This also made STO curious. Then what do they eat? He laughed and answered as if it were obvious they eat dirt. Just as Ahuru said, these sandworms were busy eating pieces of dirt with their mouths. As the giant sandworms ate their first bites, STO felt they were obedient and extremely cute. STO and his teammates also relaxed their guard against these cute animals. But unlike everyone else, Parker became very scared and screamed, help me! Ahuru seemed tired to the point of being speechless with him. They won't kill you, you scaredy cat. Crybaby, huh? After thinking for a short time, it seemed STO had his own plan. He took a step forward and then announced to everyone, they say we can pass through there. This also made Parker extremely scared. What if they eat me? He remained calm, comforting everyone. They don't eat people. I hope so. Seeing STO steadily moving straight toward the giant earthworms, Parker anxiously said to the leader, what if they catch you? But it seemed like he didn't care much about that. He even walked right past the earthworms. It's okay. They've known we've been here for a while. Maybe they're just curious because it's been a long time since anyone appeared in the cave. After saying that, he didn't forget to turn back and announce, they said this cave was made by them. It seemed only Parker was scared. Sandworms, oh my God. After carefully observing the giant earthworms, he kept urging, their emotions are quite similar to human curiosity, so just go ahead. This seemed difficult for Parker. His whole body was trembling, too scared to face such a terrifying creature. Oh God. The earthworms were still wriggling on the ground. Just seeing these sandworms or getting close to them made Parker so scared he held his head and screamed. STO was about to say something more, but Parker, if it was too hard, seemed to understand his intention and immediately refused. No, I can do it. And so Parker's trembling body slowly moved forward. Seeing this, STO was speechless and thought, I just wanted to ask them to move a little. After a long time, Parker finally made it through. He sighed and complained, I'm all dirty now. Nezu sighed and nodded, adding, my fur smells like poop. But it seemed STO didn't care much about that. The smell's not that bad. Everyone looked a bit confused. Unbelievable, so it's a bad smell. He also forced a smile to comfort. So what if it smells bad? Not a bad smell. That's good. Seeing his face made Parker speechless. A guy who can control minds like him still can't lie, huh? Discovering something important, Parker's face became very excited. It seems I misunderstood the Renos underground cave. Walking ahead, hearing this made STO look surprised. What do you mean? Bakko continued, recalling the image of eyes from the darkness, carefully watching everyone's movements. Back then, there was a story saying that many monsters down here attacked good people, so not many visitors came. Then he remembered the June cat he had met earlier. Even though they looked ugly and smelled bad, the June cats were very kind. This made STO listen with curious interest. He was still scared, even though he knew they wouldn't attack him. He walked while sharing his thoughts. They're shy, so they look really scared. Just seeing them appear makes you think you're about to be eaten. But STO was totally opposite, really. I think they're adorable. This made him speechless and reply, adorable, wriggling, slimy things. And so the two of them kept chatting over a long distance about the sandworms. Yes, they came all this way to find us. And they were cute when they moved their bodies like that. That's being cute. Time flew by in a blink. Parker's voice sounded a bit tired and frustrated. It's been 3 hours since we entered the cave. But STO, walking beside him, quickly comforted, we're probably almost there. Just thinking about the stuff stuck on his body made Parker feel even more uncomfortable. I want to wash off this smell as soon as possible. A quick rinse will do. While walking forward, Nezu's nose suddenly caught a scent, and he quickly pointed ahead, announcing to everyone, there's water nearby. I can smell clean water and hear the sound of a waterfall up ahead. Then STO and Parker silently looked in the direction Nezu had pointed. At the same time, both froze a bit, surprised to see a light shining from the front of the cave. There were even waterfalls spraying up into the air with a familiar roaring sound. STO was a bit surprised and couldn't believe it. A waterfall inside a cave. STO stared blankly at the large waterfall right in front of him. The whole group marveled, looking up. He and everyone quickly moved closer. It's really a waterfall. STO quickly approached the water to check it out. He slowly scooped some water into his palm, observing if there was anything strange. After confirming, STO announced to everyone, the water looks very clear. He didn't forget to turn back and remind, it's quite cold, so be careful. Before he could finish, a figure quickly rushed over. Just like that, Nezu immediately lunged down toward the ground, causing droplets of water to splash up into the air. Some of those droplets even splashed all over STO's face, who was sitting nearby. It's been a long time since I've had a refreshing natural bath. Nezu became extremely happy. It's really cool here, and STO. Seeing everyone playing like that, Uhuru on the side also felt excited. It looked fun, but it seemed like STO and Parker got splashed and were completely soaked. Feeling that something was off, he quickly glanced toward his friend. It seemed Parker somewhat understood and turned his head to look at him. This time, Parker's mouth quickly opened wide as if to say something more. Seeing their messy appearances, both burst out laughing, thoroughly enjoying it. Parker quickly stepped toward the pond. If that's the case, STO nodded in understanding. That must be it. Over here, Nezu was continuously delighted, and STO had also gone down. Suddenly realizing something was wrong, Parker turned around in surprise to look at him. But aren't you going to bathe the cat? It seemed like Suki didn't really like this. Even its face looked a bit angry. Hearing that, STO laughed and explained, Suki doesn't like water, so Parker sighed at how stubborn it was, but still quietly reminded them. But since the water is already here, bathing a bit should be fine, right? Being dirty can make you sick, can't take it anymore. Suki loudly scolded that brainless bird. Hearing those rude words, STO quickly reminded Suki. As if understanding his intention, Suki obediently went toward the pond. It's clean. Nothing to worry about. I'll bathe myself. Its trembling hands slowly reached out to touch the water's surface, but it didn't want to do it at all. I really don't like water. While Suki was still hesitating and reluctant to get into the water, suddenly someone threw it in hard. Doctor, 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 doctor. Right after he dove straight into the cool water and saw Nezu still motionless, which made Estio worried. He called out to Nezu, but the next scene startled him with surprise. It turned out that at this moment, Suki's feet had aggressively pressed down on Parker's head, but no matter how much it tried to avoid it, water kept splashing onto its face. Seeing Suki trying so hard to keep water off its body made Estio feel a little amused by the scene. Just like that, in the blink of an eye, it quickly climbed onto the bank. Once safely on shore, Suki gave a resentful glare toward the inside of the pond. Needless to say, it had become extremely angry at what had just happened. I won't let him get away. Where's that bird snail? Seeing it act like that, Estio gently calmed down Suki. He smiled and turned to look at it, giving some advice. Thanks to that, your eyelashes are clean now. Worried it might get sick, he didn't forget to carefully wipe its body bit by bit with a towel. Sit up a bit so I can dry you off. Parker finally surfaced on the bank. He smiled kindly and asked, So do you like it, kitty? Just seeing him made Suki want to tear him into 1,000 pieces. I'll kill him. Estio held it tightly and gently called out to Parker. Yeah. Parker seemed very eager to hear what Estio wanted to say. Yeah, this time you seriously scared Suki. Then he looked at Suki and asked it to apologize and promise not to suddenly do that again. This time his words made Parker startled and realize his mistake. Feeling embarrassed, Parker quickly scratched his head and admitted his fault. Sorry. After apologizing, he didn't forget to add, next time I'll tell my first the teleport dive. Seeing the time was running out, Estio quickly turned around. Let's move. Suddenly, Uhuru on the side kept making sounds seeming a bit strange, causing Estio to quickly approach. What are you doing? He continued to explain. I'm thirsty. Hearing this, Estio glanced toward the pond. So water. Uhuru sighed helplessly and explained, I just drank, but it didn't taste good. Maybe this is the picky hunger feeling of a cactus that's selective about its soup. You gently put Suki down on the ground below and didn't forget to remind her to drink water. Being too strict isn't good either. Suddenly, Uhuru sadly asked, Can you give me something else to drink? But Estio still didn't understand what something else meant. He continued to explain something stronger. This time, Uhuru thought about Estio's delicious blood with its special rich texture. Hearing him say that, you looked surprised and thoughtful. Could it be that his eating habits had changed since that day? This made you hesitate and ponder. Is he a plant vampire who naturally drinks blood? Slowly, Estio reached out to Uhuru and you gently stroked his head with your hand. My blood is different from the others. Of course, this made him very happy. He loved having his head petted. After thinking for a short time, you quickly instructed, Show me your spikes. This surprised him as well. Then Estio kept urging you to hurry over here. Parker hurriedly grabbed your shirt and went to Estio. After hearing your instructions, Uhuru immediately showed you his sturdy cactus spikes. Seeing Estio's bright red blood dripping down, he became very excited. Blood. There's blood. This also made Parker worried. You gently turned your head to comfort him. I'm just feeding the cactus, so no need to panic. The fresh red drops continuously poured into Uhuru's body, causing him to bloom more and more different flowers. After a while, Estio and his teammates continued their journey. This time, Parker asked again, Do you think someone deliberately created that waterfall? You nodded thoughtfully. Maybe. This made Parker very hesitant. Surely June didn't carve out that waterfall just to make a bathing stream. Feels like some great creature once lived here. Seeing Parker's strange reaction, Estio seemed surprised. Why do you think that? You quickly stepped closer and added, I heard these kinds of caves usually have owners. Your face brightened up. Haven't you heard the cave commanders are tigers? Wolves or images of mysterious creatures not yet discovered? You explained. Hearing this, Estio was a bit confused, recalling the huge shape of the dragon at that time. Do dragons also live in caves? Yes, sir, you nodded confidently. I once learned that dragons' territories are usually caves. Recently, there have been some discoveries about dragons' domains in caves as well. Then you and Estio looked around everywhere. The space was damp, but surely their bodies are big. This place is a bit small for dragons to live in. Remembering something important, Parker smiled and reached forward. But some say dragons are the strongest among all kinds of dragons. There are 2 physical forms, but Estio couldn't hide his curiosity. 2 forms. Parker quickly nodded to confirm, yes, one form has wings, tail, and short front claws, something like that. They say unless they use their power, they mostly try to maintain human form. After hearing all this, STO understood better what you meant that dragons live by switching into human form. You calmly spread your arms and explained, it's more than transformation. It's like they have two bodies. Dragons are also a species greatly favored by the gods. The more STO heard, the more amazed he became, almost stunned. Isn't it recorded in the Bible that the human body is God's entity? Parker quickly stepped closer, smiling gently, and shared his thoughts like this. Dragons also have a second form created in the image of God, although to confirm all this, we still need to meet a real dragon in person. Yes, it seems you've understood something I didn't because I've never been to the shrine before. Hearing this, the old lady couldn't hide her surprise and asked back, really? Every village must have a place to worship. Nodded in agreement. Because I was born in a very poor mountain town. Your face showed a bit of sadness as you continued walking forward. Besides, even though blessed by God, it seems STO has gone through too much to reach a conclusion. They're nothing at all. Your eyes revealed an unspeakable sadness. Even if they were a species favored by God, they are extinct and nothing remains. Seeing you still deep in thought, the elder hurried to comfort you. Don't take it that way. Actually, it's the opposite. This made you look surprised. Meanwhile, Parker continued walking forward, recounting everything he knew. I heard that the dragons abandoned this world and left. Parker added more important information. Although called guardians, they are actually the strongest predators at the top of the food chain. Who could have caused the dragons to go extinct? But it seems STO doesn't want to believe these things much. Weren't they killed by humans? Baker laughed and shook his head. That's not true. He quickly stepped forward and placed a hand on STO's shoulder. The real reason is the continuous evolution of humans and the aftermath of wars that followed. Seeing everyone's doubt, he added a few more words. The dragons mourned when they saw the world beginning to break apart. God gave them a final choice. His voice kept narrating a completely different place. They could either stay in this world as guardians or leave it to go to a world of their own. Hearing this, STO understood. So they left. Everyone kept walking and chatting happily. I'm not sure if it's true, but according to the Bible, that's how it is. Baker smiled and enthusiastically continued. But one thing is certain, dragons were greatly favored by God, maybe even more than humans. While they were talking eagerly, suddenly Nezu sensed something was wrong. STO, is something following us? Hearing that you seemed surprised, is it those Junkas again? Nezu's attitude immediately changed completely. So they're not as friendly as they said. It quickly looked toward the dark bunker right ahead. I think they want to kill us. At that moment, a clawed paw finally appeared there. The fierce wolves looked at STO's group as enemies barely able to contain their hunger to devour them alive. Seeing their ferocious appearance startled Parker with fear. They're den wolves, they must live here. Nezu became extremely angry at their behavior. They don't look friendly at all. Maybe they're sensitive because they're hungry. While still thinking it sensed something was off again, it looked up in surprise as a giant wolf attacked straight at it from above. Then other fierce wolves charged straight toward others, ready to attack. Unable to stay still any longer, Nezu jumped high into the air using all its strength to strike the wolves as if retaliating against their so-called friendliness. After Nezu landed, the wolves lay fallen on the ground. Nezu's eyes became furious, seeing these wild wolves daring to take advantage of it. But STO's group was now completely surrounded by the lone wild wolves who even targeted Nezu's large form to seize an opportunity to attack. Noticing strange noises behind it, angrily turned with bloodshot eyes, just one punch from it could knock the fierce wolves aside. Its hands were now covered in blood from the wild wolves. Seeing Nezu's current strength, most of the wolves respected it somewhat. Watching the battle between both sides, STO's face became strangely thoughtful. He quickly glanced in another direction. After a short moment of thought, STO slowly extended his hands forward. His face gradually calmed as he waited to see what would happen next if he acted. Just as he expected, all the fierce wolves sat obediently like good dogs right in front of him. Nezu immediately realized STO had used his power and sat quietly there with sparkling eyes looking at STO. After a brief hesitation, I don't want to kill them, but wolves live in packs. He gently closed his eyes. If so, just as he opened them again, his voice slowly rang out, From now on, I am your master. The fierce wolves seemed hypnotized by Estio's words and obediently understood. All of them raised their heads and howled continuously into the sky. Inside the vast cave, the fierce howls of wild wolves continuously echoed, while the leader among them slowly changed his stance. All the wolves had cleared the way for Estio to walk forward. Noticing things were getting easier, he turned to look at everyone and called out, "Let's go!" And just like that, Estio and all his comrades walked past the fierce wolves as if nothing had happened. While following him, Parker turned his head to talk to Nezu. "Mom just finished bathing this white-furred monkey, but now he's all dirty again." He looked surprised at his white fur now covered in mud. "It's okay." Nezu smiled warmly and said, "I'll bathe again later." Seeing Parker was a bit friendly, he quickly introduced himself. "My name is Nezu. Calling me something white sounds weird, so just call me Nezu." Hearing that, he nodded in agreement and said, "Okay, I understand." But while the two were still talking, suddenly he realized something was wrong. Seeing the light right ahead, his voice became very excited. "There's the exit." And so Stio and his comrades finally got out of the dark tunnel. He looked at the beautiful scene, and Parker's eyes immediately lit up as he saw the grand palace right in front of them and exclaimed, "Two towers there." Everything here was built very solidly with beautiful architecture. Even on the city walls, soldiers were strictly guarding to prevent any unforeseen events. The soldiers here also didn't forget to prepare cannons. Parker was still excitedly moving forward, while Stio silently observed the surroundings from behind. It turned out that his face was a bit surprised seeing everything here the territory of Higa. While walking forward, everyone's feet suddenly trembled, but Parker was so confused he didn't know what to say. "What's that, an earthquake?" Nezu, right beside him, shook his head, denying that it was an earthquake. Sensing something strange, he glanced in another direction. Look over there in front of Estio and the others is a group of soldiers on horseback coming closer. This time everyone focused on the flag being carried by these soldiers. The cavalry riding big horses slowly advanced forward. Seeing the approaching soldiers, Parker was very impressed by their numbers. Yes, right after spotting Estio's group, the representative quickly asked if he was the commander of the Ignis Guild. Estio stepped forward and nodded in confirmation. After hearing this confirmation, the representative quickly bowed and reported that the Lord was waiting for him. Time quickly shifted to another large town nearby. As soon as Estio appeared, the locals became very confused. Nobles, the workers stopped what they were doing and kept discussing excitedly among themselves. "Just look at that guy's clothes. He's a member of Ignis." It seems Stio and Parker were the hot topic of all their chatter. Some of them have wings too. They look strong, right? New mercenaries, are they preparing for battle? After hearing this, another person immediately suggested, "Then we have to fight." The others nodded in agreement. That's right, yes. The people here were full of spirit, continuously cheering, "Let's fight." This time all the townspeople gathered and loudly declared, "Sir, if you need our help, we are always ready to assist. Let's protect this city." These actions made Stio freeze for a moment. He exclaimed in admiration, "This really is a wonderful land." This also confused the representative. "Why do you think so?" It seems Stio deeply valued the patriotism of these people because of their hearts. Even in his mind, he had his own thoughts, strong hearts wanting to protect their homeland. Reflecting on himself, Estio sighed tiredly, closing his eyes tightly. "I've never once felt the desire to protect the land where I was born." Quickly, the scene shifted to a large, luxurious palace. Inside, the interiors were decorated delicately. On the wall, various masterpieces are painted, highlighting the luxury of this place. Estio, along with Parker and the teammates, gradually moved forward. While he was still observing everything here, the guide's voice rang out. "Sorry, I'm a bit worried." Glancing at Stio, he announced, "But the only person allowed in is the guild commander." Although reluctant, since it was an order, he had no choice but to instruct everyone. No one else is allowed in unless personally invited by the Duke. But Stio remained silent, listening carefully to everything the guide said. That's the rule. After thinking for a short moment, he turned to inform everyone, "Let's do as he says." Nezu, upon hearing this, was about to say something more, but his face became very serious. Comforting. Everyone's mood. "I'll review the request quickly and come out right away. Just wait here." Though very unwilling, Nezu had no choice but to sigh and nod in agreement. "Yes, even a bit scared." Nezu didn't forget to look ahead. "If anything happens, shout for me." Estio smiled softly, nodded in understanding, and stepped inside. Fearing Estio might worry unnecessarily, Parker loudly declared, "Leave this to me, Commander." His eyes sparkled. "I'll take good care of things." Before he could finish, the door closed. This also hurt little Parker's heart. Nezu, right beside him, gently comforted him. It's okay. After entering the room, Estio felt a bit worried and thoughtful. It seems I've never left the three of them alone like this before. He recalled the image of the three of them. Will they be okay? But the more important matter ahead left him no choice but to focus on confirming the request information. Then as he was about to move forward, Estio suddenly caught sight of Uhuru right in front of him. Seeing it still wandering here caused him to freeze for a moment. He rummaged through his memory and remembered Nezu had carried it for a while. But sometimes while still lost in his own thoughts, a voice rang out. You've arrived. The man before him spoke. Did you arrange to meet beforehand? Seeing Estio still hadn't responded, Mobian slowly stood up and put down all his work on the table. He smiled, removed his glasses, and greeted, You said you'd be happy to accept my welcome. His face showed great anticipation. Didn't you say so, Estio? But the moment he saw Uhuru standing right there, Mobian froze briefly, staring at it, still standing silently. This confused him greatly. A cactus. It's also very fast. Reintroduce yourself. Let me hear your name. It's Uhuru. I'm a cactus. Mubian, after witnessing this scene, froze briefly, noticing his strange attitude. Uhuru clearly showed embarrassment. At this moment, Mubian was speechless, not knowing what else to say. Just like that, his surprised shout echoed throughout the place. Uhuru and Mubian both shouted loudly, Why are you standing still? Hearing the shouts from both sides, he helplessly closed his eyes slightly. He raised his hand to his head. Suddenly, the door burst open. 3 guards with swords charged in, loudly asking, Lord, are you in trouble? Mubian froze, clearing his throat a few times. He glanced sideways. Uhuru stood still without making a sound. Mubian crossed his arms, forced a smile, and ordered, Nothing's wrong. You all return to your positions. The guards looked clearly confused. They all looked at each other. He watched the door close and sighed in relief. Mubian raised his hand to his mouth and awkwardly laughed. I heard the commander is quite an unusual guy, but I didn't think he'd be a cactus. Uhuru remained motionless on the ground. He squatted down opposite it. Curious, I heard the commander is a normal human. Can you really walk and talk like a human? It scolded angrily. What are you asleep? Mobian said excitedly. Your spikes are pretty tough too. I like that, Uhuru grumbled. No matter what I am. This idiot's name can't possibly be His Grace the Duke. After a moment, Estio's voice deepened, cutting in. This misunderstanding, I am the leader of the guild. He looked down, puzzled. Didn't you say we've met before? Mobian looked up at Estio, then smiled narrowly, just being cautious. Mobian stood facing Estio and questioned, I don't know if you have a hobby of disguising as a cactus or not. He immediately replied, I don't have such a hobby. He continued, but you have the ability to do that, right? The ability to manipulate psychology. Why are you frowning slightly? Mobian moved his hands excitedly. So I was right, huh? Just guessing. Because someone who can read minds can also control others. He hesitated and asked, How much do you know? Mobian raised his index finger to his lips, still smiling, and answered, I'm just guessing. Don't be too sensitive, my friend. He silently judged there's really nothing to doubt. The pressure he brought was truly endless. Estio pondered, staring closely at Mobian. He reached out politely and said, Let me introduce myself again. I am Mobian Raiga. I was the one who sent the request to your guild. Nice to meet you. Estio silently glanced at his hand. After a moment, he also shook Mobian's hand. I am Estio from the Ignis Guild. Why did Estio get straight to the point like that? What request he cut in? First, there's something I'm a bit curious about. Mobian looked suspiciously at Uhuru beside him. If you don't control this thing, then what is this talking cactus? What the heck? It growled angrily. Who are you calling a monster? It seemed to realize something which was true. But is it okay to call me a monster like that? Uhuru jumped up and shouted, I won't go easy on you. Mobian turned pale, goosebumps rising, stammering, What did it say? Noise erupted throughout the room. Estio helplessly watched him sitting on the table, dodging Uhuru's pursuit. He dropped to his knees and called Uhuru over here. It stopped nagging Mobian again. Then Uhuru darted back to Estio. He lifted it with his hand, curious. Your Grace, did you hear what Uhuru said? Mobian awkwardly held the sword hilt at his side. That thing. He closed his eyes and calmly replied. So that's what the cactus said. I heard everything. Mobian's hand trembled violently, but he was too scared. He looked at Estio and Uhuru and asked, Why? Am I not allowed to hear? He was embarrassed. Sorry for asking this, but you also hear plants talk. Estio's cheeks flushed pink. He also has that ability. Mobian stepped closer to him and replied, I don't. What are you talking about? He gripped the sword tighter. If it's a sword I always carry in my hand, then I would understand. Estio was confused. How is your sword related? Mobian smiled lightly and explained, there are bonds that become stronger, thanks to fresh blood, like... Estio rolled his eyes toward Uhuru upon hearing his answer. If that cactus drank your blood, for example... Mobian put his hand on his chin, understanding silently. I see, huh? Estio, this must be your power then. Your ability is to let the voice of plants reach my senses. This ability is activated through a certain method. You can also give orders verbally. Mobian raised his index finger to explain, but if just the right amount of blood is absorbed, you don't need to say anything to activate your ability. Estio stood up and assessed, you know my power better than I do. He waved his hand flustered. Don't misunderstand. I didn't specially investigate you. It's just that the information I've gathered over the years is now coincidentally useful. After Estio was stunned by the investigation. So there must be others with powers like mine, right? Mobian smirked and replied, there used to be. He turned his head away. But until now, it's just a hypothesis. Mobian helplessly continued. Honestly, because the traits of physical form have been passed down in my family for many generations. I have been misunderstood because of my hair color. Estio was confused, misunderstanding. He tightened his sword, his black hair eyes wide open. Black eyes, Estio was stunned and strangely capable. Mobian pointed the sword at him. Everyone wondered about this, that the family of two roosters, he kept his confident demeanor. Spoke up. I am a descendant of the Black Dragon. He was speechless and did not answer. Uhuru suddenly spoke up. Black Dragon? He fearfully assessed, his ego is too big. Scary. The Mobian gritted his teeth in anger. Estio sweated, looking at the Duke Mobian's demeanor. He slapped his forehead. Ah! Mobian smiled excitedly, baring his teeth. You can feel the essence of the Black Dragon flowing through my veins. Uhuru called out to Estio. He squinted, waving his hand. Sorry, I was just joking. Obviously, I'm not the Black Dragon. Mobian sheathed his sword. I was only referring to some rumors that surfaced before Arn. He turned his back and walked away. Because those rumors relate to the request I made. Estio asked curiously, what is your request? On the soft sound echoed. He reached out to catch the bag Mobian dropped. It's too heavy, he said seriously. And Mobian propped himself up on the table, determined to find the true descendant of the Black Dragon. Estio widened his eyes in surprise, raising a finger for a month. Mobian set the condition. If you try to help me with this within the next month, my request will be considered fulfilled. Regardless of the outcome, he closed his eyes, hands on hips, assuring there's no need to worry. Just follow my orders. Estio hesitated. If the Duke abandoned his position, he had calculated it beforehand. Mobian proudly showed off that he had already found a replacement. 1 month would be enough. He asked awkwardly, I want to tell you in advance, I'm not a close combat fighter. Do you have soldiers with you? Mobian asked. His soldiers arrogantly waved their hands. Why would I need something like that? Mobian took a few steps, hands behind his back, voice booming. If you mean swordsman, I'm the top swordsman in the Empire. Uhuru made a pouty face, mocking. That sounds terrible. Mobian half closed his eyes and spoke coldly, threatening, if anyone dares to interfere with my affairs, they should fear for their lives. I'm not like the previous clan heads. Even the Emperor is no exception. Mobian stood before the door, echoing the affirmation, no matter who they are. He grabbed the door handle to leave, then Estio spoke up. Can you confirm that your desire to find the Black Dragon and your suspicious stance behind Mobian have nothing to do with your current thoughts? He forced a smile, pondering he's already read it. Mobian looked at Estio, quietly judging. He's more of an obstacle than I thought. He agreed. Okay, I'll say it again. Placing his hand on his chest, he continued the requester. This time is not the Duke of this country, but an individual Mubin, myself, unrelated to the eldest sister at all. Estio was stunned, then bowed his head and replied softly, understood. Mobian firmly said the Higa clan definitely has no relation to the Black Dragon's bloodline. He opened his eyes wide, but there really is some Black Dragon blood mixed in. Mobian opened the door to the outside. Parker was playing with Nezu and Suki. Hearing Mobian's voice, Estio looked up. One of my ancestors drank dragon's blood, and since then they gradually gained power over time. Estio was amazed by that. He leaned against the door and asked, That's quite like your cactus, isn't it? Uhuru protested. Kid, don't drag me down with you. Estio stepped closer to him. So Duke, you propose, please choose my destination first. Mobian rolled his eyes, looking away. Then after a moment turned back and asked, where should we go? Estio was surprised, huh? Mobian squinted slightly. My destination this month. He reached out. Mobian moved his hand toward Estio and said, is to investigate the person with the Black Dragon's abilities as recorded by my ancestors. Estio was shocked, mouth agape. What? Parker and Nezu looked confused at the two in front of them. Mobian shifted and turned his head away, saying, isn't that very interesting? He imagined a black dragon. Continuing among all dragons, the pure power of the black dragon has darkness attributes, and through mental ability, can dominate normal life rhythms. Parker, Nezu, and Suki looked blankly, not understanding. Mobian placed his hand on his chin. From my perspective, your dominion power is too similar to the Black Dragon's to be called a coincidence. Estio said in disbelief, no way. He smiled broadly and stated his purpose. You're right, I called you here because I've always thought you have some connection with the dragons. Mobian smiled with his eyes squinting, once again extending his hand. So let's help each other for the next month, okay? The entire Grand Castle plunged into darkness. A confused voice echoed, where did it go? In the spacious rooms, calls kept ringing out. Mobian Jeria smiled brightly and exclaimed, here it is, my lovely star. Jeria looked at Mobian, sitting on the grass outside, and asked, are you playing hide-and-seek because you can't sleep? He looked up bewildered, yes, ma'am. He reached out to pick Mobian up and offered, then let me tell you a funny story before you sleep. He answered yes. Jiraiya held a gentle smile on her lips and continued, the blood of dragons is flowing inside you, Mobian. He wondered about dragon blood. She rolled her eyes toward Mobian and said, isn't that amazing? It's the gift of the black dragon, the rarest and most beautiful dragon in this world. He objected, liar, you told me dragons disappeared long ago. Jerry exclaimed, did Lord High? Can really say that? Her voice echoed down the hallway. It's true, other dragons may have vanished because the world has become too vast and complicated for dragons to protect it all. Jiraiya opened the door to Mobian's room. Chumo, what's the matter? Really, she reminded him. But please remember this, okay? Because of my little star. Jiraiya laid him down on the bed and taught him, the dragons who share this bloodline with us have not disappeared. The proof is our family has existed for a very long time. Our clan always produces strong children. Mobian doubted so. Doesn't that mean they died a long time ago? She gently kissed his forehead. Dragons are the protectors of the world. They do not age, get sick, or die. Jiraiya smiled kindly and said, I told you they are the most noble and beautiful creatures in this world. Surely they are protecting our family somewhere. Mobian's eyes widened, his cheeks flushed pink. He turned away and exhaled sharply. What if dragons don't willingly want to protect us? Then maybe it's because we are too weak for them to care. After Jiraiya sat on the bed, Mobian thought compared to dragons, they were nothing. But living virtuously and continuing the family line, we will be the only living proof of their existence in this world. She cast a gentle gaze following him. Mobian stammered, asking Jiraiya, then why doesn't that dragon leave and just stay silent like that? Jiraiya smiled with squinted eyes and answered, because the black dragon loves humans very much. Back to the present, Mobian opened his eyes wide, sat up, and placed his hand on his forehead. That dream again. Mobian slightly opened his eyes when he heard a voice. Are you awake, sir? He looked at Estio sitting opposite, puzzled. You're not sleeping. He answered, I just woke up too. The fire flickered between them and the atmosphere briefly fell silent. He awkwardly scratched his cheek. Mobian shyly asked if he was talking nonsense. And Estio immediately replied, no, you were sleeping soundly. He suspiciously asked, really, you dropped the piece of meat into the flame? Yes, really. Mobian became silent, nodding while recalling. Then he looked at Estio and silently appreciated how calmly he answered, quite like Jiraiya. Mobian. He shook his head, fidgeting, thinking, what on earth? Jiraiya is a gentle and warm woman. Her hair is reddish pink and completely different from that gloomy, emotionless guy. He looked over at Nezu and Suki, who were sleeping soundly, and asked why Estio wasn't sleeping and stayed awake. I feel guilty about that. Estio raised a branch, sir, haven't you forgotten? He calmly explained his basic ability was to read others' minds. If someone dreams with very strong images, sometimes they start to flood into my mind. Even if I don't want them, Estio held the meat over the fire and continued as if it was passed to him. His eyes flickered with the fire's glow. Mobian probed, so you saw everything, huh? The image of Jiraiya appeared. Estio commented that she was a beautiful and wise mother. He laughed and scratched his head exactly. Jiraiya, my mother, was very intelligent, unlike me. Mobian gazed up at the sky, following the distant stars, even though she was no longer here. Estio's voice rose in the night. Sir, you've only slept an hour. Aren't you going to sleep more? Mobian's voice was low. I have insomnia. Yes, he smiled with squinting eyes and said, If it's just that long, that's enough. At that moment, the whole space suddenly fell silent. Mobian laughed out loud so he could see a part of his past from his memories. An interesting dream, isn't it? Yes, he held up 2 fingers to explain Jiria was my father's second wife. Mobian's eyes looked away as he continued, but of course, I always considered Jerry my birth mother. I heard my birth mother died after trying to give birth to me. He blinked. Mubian remembered Jiria's smile because of my lovely star. He looked at the stars in the sky and said she called me her star. Mubian bowed his head in loneliness, but I couldn't give her anything. He gritted his teeth bitterly, even giving up her life. Mubian's hand clenched tightly into a fist. At that time, countless panicked voices shouted across the town. Monsters had invaded the estate. The monsters were coming, claws sharp, attacking everyone. Jiria, where are you? Mubian laughed helplessly. Everyone died that day except me. He suddenly thought of a black dragon, wondering if the black dragon still existed in this world. Mobian leaned back on the ground. I really just wanted to ask him one question. Stio listened quietly. He gently raised his hand to ask, what should I do? Mubian seemed to want to reach for the stars. Now I need to protect something. Mubian's voice rose in the forest. I don't need this demonic power anymore. He continued, if this keeps up, it'd be better if the bloodline of the 2GA family disappeared forever. Stio spoke in a low voice. If you have nothing left to protect, then you can rest. He glanced at Mubian and said silly thoughts often come when people don't get enough sleep. He was surprised as D03 suggested he just sleep. He thought confusedly, wondering if he might be a descendant of the Black Dragon. Stio crossed his arms firmly. Tonight you won't have any nightmares. Mubian vaguely realized that's right. He said he could read others' minds and hearts. His eyes closed slightly. Isn't it true that a little nightmare isn't a problem? Clouds drifted slowly across the clear blue sky. A pot of food hung over the fire. A faint aroma wafted into Mubian's nose. He sat up yawning. Is it morning already? Mubian was amazed he had slept so well. Someone who can use mental power is really amazing. It's the first time in a while I've slept this well. Uhuru's voice rang out, greeting him with a nagging tone. You just woke up. So cowardly. Are you related to a sloth? He picked up Uhuru and laughed broadly. No way, normally I don't sleep this much. She didn't believe it and shot back. Don't lie, she looked down on him. After washing his face, she said, whatever you want. Mubian judged frankly. He teased Uhuru and rubbed his eyes. Here comes Uncle Ko, carrying 2 bowls of soup, hot corn ham and cheese soup. He took it while Mubian looked at the soup in the bowl with a dark face. What did you say this was? Uncle Ko sat down beside him and replied, it's a mixed cheese, milk, potato, and cauliflower soup. He protested, did you just rename it yourself? Countless question marks appeared in his mind. So is it ham and cheese soup or not? Mubian said, isn't this just a mess made from the stuff you brought? Parker explained, no, Duke, don't ignore my 25 years of cooking experience like that. He blurted out, how old are you to have 25 years of cooking experience? His eyes sparkled. I'm 21. I started learning to cook when I was 1 year old. Uncle Ko added, I even cooked baby food for myself. Mubian scolded, nonsense. Uhuru chimed in, it's reasonable because avians are related to birds and can fly well from the age of 1. He closed his eyes, imagining. That's right. I was a skilled bird who could fly from a very young age, and now with my current job as a messenger, I'm a recognized member of the command team. Mubian turned his head and asked, so where is Commander Parker? Suddenly, the whole space fell silent. Parker sweatily avoided his gaze. Everyone knew he said he went to scour the place a bit.